Good evening and welcome to the Stearns County Board of Adjustments public hearing. For the original date was March 26th and it was rescheduled to this evening, April 14th. In response to the COVID-19 and pursuant to the Minnesota Statute Chapter 12 relating to emergency management, Governor Walz has declared a state of emergency. In response to the state of emergency and in accordance with the Minnesota Statute Chapter 13D.021, the Board of Adjustments members and the applicant may participate by telephone or other electronic means. The meeting is being broadcast live, and the site for that was published to the public. And if we would, the meeting will be held this evening in the Administrative Center, and we will have some public testimony, we will have some written testimony, and we will also have some testimony that is called in on the phone. I have a couple of announcements to make. If we are in possession of a cell phone or other type of electronic paging device, we ask that you silence it at this time. Note that the testimony is all being tape recorded for the record, and if you're going to speak and are on site here, we ask that you come to the podium by the speaker and state your name and your address for the record, and then go ahead with your testimony. If you are calling in your testimony, we ask that you also say your name and address at the beginning of your testimony. For board members, we remind you that you should state your name each time before you have comments so that the public that are on site and those that are watching the video are able to know who is speaking. All right, I'll go with a brief introduction. Members of our Board of Adjustments are appointed by the County Board of Commissioners with one member from each of the 5 commissioner districts, one member at large, and one member appointed by the Planning Commission. I'll begin each request by reading the variance request, and that will open the public hearing. As I'm reading the request, if you are on site, please come to the podium. The applicant or representative will be asked to state their name and address for the record. I will then ask Environmental Service staff to provide a brief overview of the requested variance, the staff report, and any correspondence that's been received in regard to this request. Then the applicant or their representative will be given time to provide any input, corrections, concerns, or comments. Once the applicant and or their representative have provided their testimony, board members can discuss the request and ask questions of staff or the applicant. When the board has completed those questions, I will ask if there was anyone in the audience, either here on site or by phone, wishing to speak to the request. If there is, I would ask that person to state their name and address and provide their testimony. Well, when all testimony is completed, I will ask the board members for a motion to close the public hearing. When making motions this evening, please state your name as you make the motion. Once the motion has been passed to close, there will be a motion to pass to close the public hearing, and then there will be no more further input from the audience or from the applicant or environmental services unless recognized by the chair or if the board members have questions or clarification needed. Our meeting this evening will begin with a pledge. So those on site, please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We did take a roll call, but I'd like to just have everyone acknowledge that they're hearing us properly. I'll call your name. Dennis?
Yes. Yes.
Jill?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Dave?
Yes.
Jake?
Yes.
And Sean?
Yes.
All right. Our first item on our agenda for this evening is to approval of the January 23rd minutes. Is there a motion to approve?
Dave Gamrot,
Dennis.
I'll make a motion.
A motion by Dave,
Dennis will second.
seconded by Dennis. All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Our next item will be approval of the February 27th minutes. Do I have a motion?
Sean Blackburn, I make a motion, we approve those minutes.
A motion made by
Madam
Sean.
Chair, I don't believe I received those minutes.
Are there any other members that did not receive the minutes? All right, it sounds like that the majority of the members received the minutes, so I think we could go ahead for approval because we would have a quorum vote. I believe Sean made a
Dennis
motion
Gregory will second.
and Dennis to second. All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed or abstaining? Motion carries. So our first item for this evening is to consider a request from Kevin and Anna Mae Schramm of Cold Spring, Minnesota, from Section 10.2.11A1A of the Stearns County Land Use and Zoning Ordinance 439 to place a 24 by 40 foot detached residential accessory structure less than 200 feet from the OHWL of Long Lake, classified as a natural environment lake. The said ordinance requires a structural setback of at least 200 feet from the OHWL of lakes classified as natural environment. The affected property is 41.7 acres, the west half of the southeast quarter less 495 feet of the east, 88 feet of west, 104.5 feet less that part of the plotted as Schramm Estates and Schramm Estates Plat 2, Section 14, Track 124 North, Range 30 West of Collegeville Township. The property address is 14558 Knightwood Road, Cold Spring, Minnesota. And are the applicants present? If you could state your name and your address.
14558 Knightwood Road, Cold Spring, Minnesota 56320.
All right, we'll begin first with a brief overview from staff, and then we will go to seeing what comments you have. Mr. Schramm.
Excuse me, Madam Chair, it was very difficult to hear the applicant speak. Could they speak closer to the microphone, please?
All right, we'll take care of that. Thank you.
Madam Chair, members of the board. The applicants currently own a 41.7 acre tract with a single-family residential dwelling, several detached accessory structures, and several agricultural accessory structures. The 40 foot by 72 foot accessory structure was constructed with a valid construction site permit 0512492 issued in 2003. The existing residential dwelling was constructed in 1925 with additions added in 2000 and a deck added in 2006 with valid construction site permits 05-10134 and 05-15333 respectively. The feedlot on the property is permitted under conditional use permit 205-0042 issued in 2005 and is current on the registration. A 24 by 40 foot detached accessory structure was permitted by Collegeville Township in 1997, permit 36-1997. The accessory structure should have been permitted by Stearns County as the property is in the Shoreland Overlay District. The accessory structure was permitted and constructed prior to the adoption of the Stearns County Land Use and Zoning Ordinance and through no fault of the property owners. Collegeville Township did not notify the owners that a permit was required from Stearns County. The 24 by 40-foot accessory structure was destroyed by fire earlier this winter, and the applicants are proposing to rebuild the structure in the same location. The 24-foot by 40-foot detached accessory structure is proposed to be located approximately 103 feet from the OHWL of Long Lake. The proposed accessory structure will meet all other performance standards and setback requirements for residential accessory structures. The property is located in the Shoreland Overlay District of Long Lake, is not located in floodplain, and Long Lake is not on the list of lakes impaired for nutrients. The property is in an A40 zoning district. The subsurface sewage treatment system on the property was installed on October 31st, 1991, and the last compliance inspection was completed in 2006. A compliance inspection is required to be completed by June 15th, 2020. The current impervious lot coverage is approximately 4%. The alternative would be to move the proposed accessory structure to the required 200-foot setback. Collegeville Township, the Minnesota Department of Natural Resources, and property owners within 500 feet have been notified of this request. Staff has received no correspondence concerning this request. And then I would like to ask if all board members that did not make it to the site just state their name and say that they didn't.
Is there anyone that did not make it to the site? Okay, thank you. All right, if the applicant can share with us your comments?
No, we just want to replace the structure, 24 by 40, again, like we used to have it, and put it right in the same spot.
Okay, and if I could ask the board members, are you hearing the applicant?
Not very well, no.
Not very well.
All right, we'll work on adjusting the microphone.
We just want to replace the 24 by 40 structure that was burnt on December 1st on the same spot where we had it.
Is that better?
A little bit.
Okay, thank you.
Slightly, yes.
All right, thank you. All right, are there questions from the board of either staff or the applicant? Please state your name before you make your comment. I see this one as one that we probably can go through, rather quickly, as they did not have the permit that they needed, but at no fault of their own because they were not notified by the township. And if they had been and had a permit at the time in 1997, this would be just replacing something on its current footprint, and so I don't believe that it would be, a significant concern. Any other comments from the board members?
This is Sean Blackman. I agree completely with that assessment.
I would agree with that, Dave Gamrat.
Mike Kane, I agree.
Okay, is there any?
I agree.
Thank you. Are there any members of the audience or that are phoning in that would like to comment on this particular item? Hearing none, board members, could I have a motion to close the public hearing?
Dennis Gregory moves to close the public hearing.
All right, we have a motion to close. Is there a second?
Second, Mike
Dave
Kane.
Gamrat, I'll second.
Dave Gamrath, second. All right,
Yep.
a motion's been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries, so the public hearing is closed. Is there any discussion before we go to findings of fact? Findings of fact are a series of questions that we ask ourselves related to state statute and county ordinances. And depending on the response to these questions, we then will make our decision. Number 1, the proposed use is allowed in zoning district in which the subject property is located. Yes or no?
Dennis Gregory, it's in A40. This is an allowed use, have an accessory structure.
All right.
Agreed, Mike Kane.
Jill DeLong, agree.
Agree. Dave Gamrod, agree.
And what we, as long as staff approves of this, I'm thinking for this evening, in order to expedite things, when we have someone that answers the question, I can ask, is there, any additional, or if there's anyone that disagrees with that statement. And so if you do not agree with that statement, then state your name and give your input. If we do not hear from you, we will be assuming that that is a confirming of the person who spoke's statement. Question number 2, the variance will be in harmony with the general purposes and intent of the official controls and any related ordinances, yes or no?
Mike Kane, 9.3.1 under A40, they allow detached accessory structures.
All right, so we have 1 yes. Is there anyone that does not agree with Mike's assessment? Hearing none, we will mark that number 2 as unanimous yes. Number 3, the variance will be consistent with the comprehensive plan, yes or no?
Madam Chair, yes, I do believe it is consistent with the comprehensive plan. If we look at the land use plan and goals, growth and development objective, goal 4, sustain the current livability and diversity of Stearns County. So we are just replacing a structure that burnt down. It was pre-existing, so we are sustaining the current livability and diversity of Stearns County.
All right, thank you. Is there anyone that disagrees with Jill's assessment? Hearing none, I will mark that as a unanimous yes. Number 4, the property owner proposes to use the property in a reasonable manner, yes or no?
Mike Kane,
Dennis
yes.
Gregory. Go ahead, Mike.
Sorry. They're just rebuilding the accessory structure that was already there by no fault of their own and burned down.
All right, we have a yes vote from Mike. Is there anyone that does not agree with Mike's assessment? All right, number 4 will be marked as a unanimous yes. Number 5, the plight of the landowner is due to the circumstances unique to the property, not created by the landowner, yes or no?
Sean Blackburn here. I would have to say that it is unique to the property because of the fire, and the landowner had nothing to do with the fire.
All right, is there anyone that disagrees with Sean's assessment for numbers 5? Hearing none, number 5 will be
Madam
marked. Yes.
Excuse me, this is Jill DeLong. I believe that, yes, this is through no fault of their own because unique to the property, not necessarily the fire, but the way that the property is laid out, as close as it is to Long Lake, and looking at the LIDAR of the elevations, there was no better place to put this shed, so it is unique to the property.
Okay, thank you. We have 2 yeses with Sean and Jill. Is there anyone that disagrees with Sean or Jill's assessment? Then we will mark number 5 as unanimous yes. Number 6, the variance, if granted, maintains the essential character of the locality. Yes or no?
My
Sean
change,
Blackman here.
no change in the character of the area.
All right, we have one member stating there will be no change, so it would be a yes. Is there anyone in the board that disagrees with the yes in number 6? Then we will mark 6 as unanimous yes. Number 7, the need for the variance involves more than economic considerations, yes or no? I don't believe that economics were even discussed as part of this request, so I am going to say yes. Is there anyone on the board that disagrees with that assessment? Then number 7 will be marked as a unanimous yes. We are ready for a motion.
Sean Blackman here. I'm going to make a motion that we recommend approval of this application.
And I heard first Sean speaking, and who was the second one that spoke in that made the motion?
I'll second Sean's motion. Dennis Gregory.
All right, motion was made by Sean, seconded by Dennis to approve the request. Is there anyone that disagrees with approving this request? Hearing none, I will mark the vote as unanimous yes. Your request has been approved. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item number 2 on our agenda is to consider a request from Bobby Hoppy, applicant, Plymouth, Minnesota, on behalf of Robert Hoppy, Avon, Minnesota, from section 6.2.1P, Table M, and 6.5 of the Stearns County Subsurface Sewage Treatment System Ordinance 422, and sections 9.9.9A3, 10.2.11A1A, and 10.2.11A2A of the Stearns County Land Use and Zoning Ordinance 439 to place a holding septic tank that does not meet the setback requirement from the OHWL of Pine Lake, to use a holding tank for a subsurface sewage septic treatment system for a new residential dwelling, and to construct a new residential dwelling with the attached garage that does not meet the structural setback required from the right-of-way of Pine Lake Road, classified as a township road, and does not meet the structural setback requirement of the OHWL and in the shore impact zone of Pine Lake, classified as a natural environment lake. The said ordinance requires a setback of at least 150 feet from the OHWL for the placement of a holding septic tank, does not allow for the use of a holding tank for a subsurface sewage treatment system for a new residential dwelling, requires a structural setback of at least 30 feet from the right-of-way of roads classified as township roads, and requires a structural setback of at least 200 feet from the OHWL of lakes classified as natural environment, and does not allow for new structures to be placed in the zone impact zone at least 100 feet from the OHWL of lakes classified as natural environment, respectively. The affected property is lots 2 and the north 14 feet of lot 3, block 1, Betty's West Pine Beach, section 12, track 125 north, range 31 west of Albany Township, and the property address is 36718 Pine Lake Road, Avon, Minnesota. And is the applicant present by phone?
Yes, this is Bobby Hoppy representing my dad at 36718 Pine Lake Road, Avon, Minnesota.
And welcome. We will go to staff to do an overview, and then you will have an opportunity to speak once the staff gives their portion of the report.
Madam Chair, members of the board, the owner currently owns a non-conforming tract of record that has a 26-foot by 36-foot single-family residential dwelling and an 18-foot by 24-foot detached accessory structure that was purchased in 1983. The plat of Betty's West Pine Beach was recorded in 1964 prior to the adoption of the official control. The total lot area of the property is approximately 15,720 square feet of lot area. In 1975, the previous owner-developer of the property applied for and received a variance 75-92 to place a single-wide manufactured home on the property. In 1976, the owner-developer of the property applied for an SS subsurface sewage treatment system permit and a construction site permit 01-1866 for a 20-foot by 36-foot residential dwelling. In 1979, the owner-developer applied for a construction site permit 01-3445 to place a detached accessory structure on the property. In 1981, the owner-developer applied for and received a variance to place a subsurface sewage treatment system up to the road right-of-way of Pine Lake Road, less than 130 feet from the OHWL of Pine Lake and 10 feet from the existing structure. That SSTS permit was issued in 1983 for this system under permit 01-5566. There was not an inspection report attached to the permit. The current owner applicants are applying for a variance to construct a 26-foot by 36 and foot 1 1/2 story residential dwelling with a 16-foot by 26-foot attached garage to replace the existing residential dwelling and detached garage. The existing residential dwelling is not structurally sound at this time. The proposed structure would be 31 feet from the ordinary high water level of Pine Lake in the shore impact zone and 26 feet from the right-of-way of Pine Lake Road. Also, the owner applicant is applying for a variance to place a holding septic tank 70 feet from the ordinary high water level of Pine Lake and to use the holding tank as a sewage treatment system for a new residential dwelling. The property is located in the Shoreland Overlay District of Pine Lake, is not located in a floodplain, and Pine Lake is not on the list of lakes impaired for nutrients. The property is located in an R1 zoning district. The subsurface sewage treatment system on the property was installed in 1983, and a compliance inspection is required to be completed by June 15th of 2020. The current impervious lot coverage is approximately 3,485 square feet, 22.1%, with the proposed lot coverage to be reduced to 23,338 square feet, or 14.9%. There are no alternatives to the proposed variance request for the new residential dwelling that meets the required 200-foot setback requirement for lakes classified as natural environment. Albany Township, the Minnesota Department of Natural Resources, and property owners within 500 feet have been notified of this request. Staff has received no correspondence concerning this request. And then I would ask, did any of the board members not make it to the site? Thank you.
All right, thank you. And Ms. Hoppy, you now have the floor to share your input.
Yes, basically this is a home that my dad has lived in for quite a few years. It becomes dilapidated and is unsafe. And so I'm proposing basically to build him a new home in the existing, pretty much in the existing footprint of the current home to make it more safe for him.
Okay, thank you. Board members, does anyone have questions for either staff or the applicant?
Mike Kane, is it possible at all to do anything other than a holding tank because of the size of this lot and the size of the house that's going on?
Staff?
I don't believe. Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead, Bobby.
Yeah, as far as I know, that's the best environmental option. It's not permissible, I think, to have a drain field in the area, and I think it would be probably most responsible to have a small holding tank, and that was kind of at the advice of the people that designed the sewer system.
And would staff agree with that assessment?
Mike, this is Dave with Stearns County Environmental Services. I don't believe that there would be room available on the property to place a mound system or any type of sewage treatment system on the property except for the holding tank based on the location of the well and the size of the property.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Other questions?
Dennis Gregory, question for the applicants. Since there already needs to be a variance from the township road, did you consider moving the structure closer to the road like some of the neighboring properties are?
Yes, we did. However, with the current septic design, we're actually pretty close to the road as is. We're right in line with all the other, like the mobile homes and the other properties on that road. We're pretty much in parallel with those properties. So moving the lot closer to the road, I think would be difficult.
Okay, other board members with questions? And just to comment on the aerial photo that we have of that property, it does appear that it would be, that the other properties on either side of this are significantly closer to the road.
Let me see. Can you tell me what page you're referring to in the application?
Well, I'm looking at the aerial photo, which I believe is the last page of the packet. Although I will preface that with the curve of the lake does curve out further out on the Hoppy property than the other properties. So the distance to the lake is probably, just by looking at it, looks to be about the same as the other properties.
Yeah, that is true. Our water edge actually butts out quite a bit further compared to our neighbors. So we actually have a lot more shoreline facing the lake compared to our neighbors.
Madam Chair, Dennis Gregory again. That was the reason I asked the question was, as I looked at it, it seems that the house, regardless of how far it is from the lake, it doesn't meet the lake setback, that it could be pushed further away from the lake, which might be advantageous environmentally. And that road is a little used road, and since all the other properties are right up against the road, it would seem that if we're going to encroach on something, it would be better to encroach on the road than on the lake.
Well, this is an update that road used to be a little used road. I agree. However, we've had a lot of high traffic on that road, believe it or not. As we've had more people that have set up permanent dwellings down more south and part of the lake, we've got some people there that are now permanently. So that road, unfortunately, that's not very well maintained, is becoming wider over time just based on the natural use of that by vehicles.
Okay, other questions and comments from board members? Okay, is there anyone in the audience on site wishing to speak to this application? Is there any one on the phone that is wishing to speak to this application?
Pardon?
Sean Blackman here. I move to close the public hearing.
All right, we have a motion to close the public hearing. Do we have a second?
Gilgalong, second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Sean made the motion, and I believe Jill seconded. All right. And any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. So we are ready for findings of fact. And I'm going to clarify with staff. I have two findings of fact sheets here. Are we to be doing two separate? One for the holding tank and one for the residential dwelling setback?
Madam Chair, I believe that would be correct.
All right. Board members, the first findings of fact that we are going to be looking at this evening will be for the setback from the road. All right, number one, the proposed use is allowed in the zoning district in which the subject property is located, yes or no?
Madam Chair, just a point of clarification, Dennis Gregory asking, is it the setback from the road and the setback from the lake, or just the setback from the road?
I'm glad that you asked that correct. Yes, that is correct. It would be from the lake and from the road. And was there comment from staff that needed to be addressed here?
I was just going to comment that
All right.
it needed to be both.
All right. So the findings will be for both the setback from the road and the setback from the lake. So number one, the proposed use is allowed in the zoning district in which the subject property is located, yes or no?
Madam Chair, this is Jill DeLong. Yes, this is R1 residential, and it is allowed to have a home in a residential area.
Is there anyone on the board that disagrees with that assessment? Hearing none, we'll mark that as a unanimous yes. Number two, the variance will be in harmony with the general purposes and intent of the official controls and any related ordinances, yes or no?
Madam Chair, Sean Blackburn here. I'm going to say that it is in harmony because, once again, we're not really changing a whole lot, and we're going to allow this gentleman to be able to use his property.
All right, is there anyone that is in disagreement with Sean's assessment? Hearing none, I will mark question number 2 as a unanimous yes. Number 3, the variance will be consistent with the comprehensive plan, yes or no?
Madam Chair, Jill DeLong. Yes, it is consistent with the comprehensive plan, land use plan goals and objectives. Goal 4, Objective 4, encourage a diversity of housing opportunities meeting the needs of both the cities and the townships, sustaining the current livability and diversity of Stearns County.
All right. Does anyone disagree with Jill's assessment for number 3?
Dennis Gregory, Goal 7, Objective 3, I do think there's an opportunity to further preserve the water resource in this case, so I disagree.
All right, since we do not have unanimous on this, I'll do a roll call on this. So Dennis is a no. Jill is a yes. Mike?
Yes?
Dave?
Yes.
Jake?
Yes.
And Sean?
Yes.
And I will vote yes on this one. So we have 6 yeses and 1 no on number 3. Question 4. The property owner proposes to use the property in a reasonable manner, yes or no?
Madam Chair, it's currently a residence. The person is desiring to continue to use it as a residence, just as one that is safer for him to inhabit. I believe this is a reasonable manner.
All right, is there anyone that disagrees with Jill's assessment? I will mark number 4 as a unanimous yes. Number 5, the plight of the landowner is due to circumstances unique to the property, not created by the landowner, yes or no?
Dennis Gregory, it is unique to the property. The property is not sized appropriately to provide the setbacks to both the road and the water.
Is there anyone that disagrees with Dennis's assessment? I will mark.
I'd just like a comment here. This is Bobby Hobby. I agree, however.
Okay, Bobby.
Think it was
Bobby,
created.
at this time, the public hearing is closed, and so we're not able to take any additional testimony other than board members unless they request something.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No,
I'm
that's
sorry.
just
Please
fine.
excuse me.
That's just fine. So we will mark number 5. Had we done that as unanimous, yes?
I think if you ask one more time if anyone had.
All right. For number 5, is there anyone that disagrees with Dennis's assessment in answering yes? Then I will mark that as unanimous yes. Number 6, the variance, if granted, maintains the essential character of the locality, yes or no?
Mike Hain, I don't think the character is going to change. It'll just be a more updated cabin.
All right, so Mike is responding yes. Is there anyone that disagrees with Mike's assessment? I will mark number 6 as unanimous yes. Number 7, the need for the variance involves more than economic concerns. I don't believe that economics.
Dave Gamrod?
Okay, I started a motion, or a statement. Bonnie Mossman, board chair. I believe that economics were really not involved in the discussion. And so I would say yes. Anyone disagree with that assessment? I will mark number 7 as unanimous yes. We are ready for a motion.
Dennis Gregory, I'd make a motion that we approve a variance for the applicant to construct a new residential dwelling and place a single-family dwelling and attached garage that does not meet the required setbacks from Pine Lake Road or the required setback from Pine Lake.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Dave Gamrod, I'll second that.
All right, so we have a motion by Dennis, seconded by Dave. Is there anyone that is not in agreement? All right, we will. Well, I guess I should do a roll call vote on that. Dennis?
Yes.
Jill?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Dave?
Yes.
Jake,
Yes.
Sean,
Yes.
and this is Bonnie, yes. So unanimous, yes. Motion passes for the findings of fact for the setback from the lake and the road. We will now do the findings of fact for the septic system. Okay. To place a holding septic tank that does not meet the setback requirement from OHWL of Pine Lake, and to use a holding tank as a subsurface sewage treatment system for a new residential dwelling. Number one, the proposed use is allowed in the zoning district in which the subject property is located, yes or no?
Mike Kane, R1 zone does allow holding tanks.
Anyone disagree with Mike's assessment? Number one is marked unanimous, yes. Number two, the variance will be in harmony with the general purposes and intent of the official controls and any related ordinances, yes or no?
Madam Chair, having this holding tank, it is the best choice for this very small piece of land that's stuck between a road and a lake. I do believe it is in harmony as it is. Professionals did decide that this was something that was the best choice. So I believe it is in harmony with the general purposes.
All right. Is there anyone that disagrees with Jill's yes assessment to number two? Hearing none, I'll mark that as a unanimous yes. Number three, the variance will be consistent with the comprehensive plan, yes or no?
Dennis Gregory, objective 7, goal 7, objective 3. I believe the holding tank, as Jill mentioned, will be more protective of the natural environment than would a septic field.
Okay. Is there anyone that disagrees with Dennis's assessment for number three? Hearing none, I'll mark that as a unanimous yes for three. Number four, the property owner proposes to use the property in a reasonable manner, yes or no?
Madam Chair, Jill DeLong.
Jill?
The property owner proposes to use this residential lot to live in, and they do require septic services for that. I believe this is a reasonable manner.
Is there anyone that disagrees with Jill's assessment for number four? Hearing none, I mark that as unanimous yes. Number five, the plight of the landowner is due to circumstances unique to the property, not created by the landowner, yes or no?
Mike Kane, based on the size and location of the house, the septic tank is really the only option for this property.
Is there anyone that disagrees with Mike's assessment? Hearing none, number five is marked as unanimous yes. Number six, the variance, if granted, maintains the essential character of the locality, yes or no?
Madam Chair, Sean Blackburn. There will be very little change to the character of the locality at all.
All right, is there anyone that disagrees with Sean's assessment of yes for number six? Then I will mark that as unanimous yes. Number seven, the need for the variance involves more than economic considerations. I don't believe that economics, this is Bonnie, the chair, I don't believe that this is economics were part of the discussion. Anyone disagree with that assessment? I will mark it as unanimous yes. We're ready for a motion.
Dennis Gregory, I would move that we approve the applicant's request for a variance to place a holding or septic tank 70 feet from the ordinary high water level of Pine Lake, and to allow for a holding tank to be used as a subsurface treatment system for a new residential dwelling.
So we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Mike Kane, second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. We'll do a roll call. Jill?
Yes.
Dave?
Yes.
Jake?
Yes.
Sean?
Yes.
And as Dennis and Mike made the motion, I will assume there's our yeses, and I will also vote yes. That will make a unanimous vote to approve this request. We are ready to move on to item number 3. The next item on our agenda for this evening is to consider a request from Dan Ekstrom, applicant, South Haven, Minnesota, on behalf of Dale and Mary Nord, Elk River, Minnesota, from sections 5.1.2A1 and 5.1.2C3 of the Stearns County Land Use and Zoning Ordinance 439 to leave as constructed an expansion of the footprint of a legal non-conforming structure in the shoreline impact zone. The said ordinance does not allow for the expansion of the footprint of a non-conforming structure in the shore impact zone. The affected property is the east half of Lot 21, Coes Augusta Shores, Section 11, Track 121 North, Range 28 West, Fairhaven Township, and the property address is 2593 Arrowwood Road, South Haven, Minnesota. And is the applicant with us?
By phone, yeah.
All right, are you Mr. Nord?
I'm Dan Ekstrom.
Dan Ekstrom. All right, thank you. And the staff will give a brief overview, and then you will have an opportunity following his overview to give us your comments.
Madam Chair, members of the board, the owners currently own a legal non-conforming lot of record on Augusta Lake classified as a recreational development lake, which was purchased on September 26, 2019. The total lot area is approximately 13,164 square feet. The residential dwelling and deck are legal non-conforming structures. As per the assessor's records, they were constructed in 1965. The 22-foot by 26-foot detached accessory structure was constructed in 1980 under a construction site permit 09-3739 by a previous owner. The residential dwelling and deck are ahead of the established building line and less than 50 feet from the OHWL of Augusta Lake. The applicant is the building contractor who applied for a construction site permit for replacement of the residential dwelling and deck. The contractor had discussions with Stearns County Environmental Services on the requirements for replacement. No expansion of the footprint, no expansion of the height, same roof pitch and roof line, same deck dimensions. The applicant then submitted building plans for the replacement of the residential dwelling and deck to meet these requirements. Stearns County Environmental Services staff conducted a site inspection prior to the issuance of the construction site permit and found that the foundation had been poured to include a 5-foot 4-inch by 1-foot 10-inch by 6-foot 6-inch in height bump out for a fireplace. The building contractor and property owner were notified that an after-the-fact variance would be required for the bump out for the fireplace, as it increased the footprint of the residential dwelling. The property is located in the Shoreland Overlay District of Augusta Lake. The structure is not located in floodplain, and Augusta Lake is on the list of impaired for aquatic recreation. The property is located in an R1 zoning district. The subsurface sewage treatment system on the property is compliant per permit P-014640, inspected on October 25, 2019, and is sized for 2 bedrooms. The proposed impervious lot coverage is approximately 3,250 square feet, or 24.7%. The alternative would be to remove the fireplace bump out. Fairhaven Township, the Minnesota Department of Natural Resources, the Clearwater River Watershed District, and property owners within 500 feet have been notified of this request. We did receive a phone call concerning this request by Kim Smith, who has a cabin at 2575 Arrowwood Road, and her primary address is 405 Guilford Road, Edina, Minnesota. She called in to comment that she does not have an issue with the requested variance. That is the only correspondence that we have received on this request, and I would ask if any of the board members did not make it out to the site.
Jill DeLong, I did not make it to the site.
All right, Jill, could you repeat that?
Yes, I was not able to make it to the site.
And also I heard Dennis commenting.
And I was going to comment that I did make it to the site. I just wanted to report a conversation with Dan Ekstrom at the site where he described the bump out and its purpose.
All right, thank you. All right, applicant,
And I also had a conversation with Dan at the site.
and is that Mike?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. All right, Mr. Ekstrom?
Yes, Dan.
Dan, we're ready for your comments now?
Okay. I was hired by Dale and Mary North to rebuild their structure. Actually, they hired me to remodel it, and when we got started on the project, we found that the house was structurally very unsound. So we decided to tear it down and rebuild it. And he requested that to put in a fireplace because he was concerned about being not on site at all times because they live in Elk River. This would be a seasonal place. And so he asked if we could add a fireplace to it, and I did some measuring and stuff from the survey and saw that it was within the 10-foot setback. So I didn't think it was going to be an issue. That was my mistake. We are within the 10-foot setback on the sideline, and I kept it to the minimum size that I could to house necessary to protect the house from freezing, or because it has in-floor heat and, of course, water lines and whatnot. They aren't there at all times. We've set up a Wi-Fi system for them so that they're informed if something ever happens. But this is like a backup heat system to protect the house. And I found out while we've been working on the place that a couple of times the power has gone out, which is pretty frequent in this area. And the primary boiler system does not restart on its own. So it's actually a benefit to have something like this. We're working on a solution to that problem, but we haven't figured it out yet. But basically, that's all it was intended for, is to, of course, I mean, there's aesthetics of value to it, but as a backup heat source, this thing will kick in if the floor system doesn't work, and give the homeowner time to get there and fix the problem.
Okay,
That's
thank
about
you.
all I got.
Thank you. Any questions from board members for either staff or the applicant?
Mike Dean?
Go ahead, Mike. Go ahead, Mike.
Either for Dan or staff, I'm assuming that the building plans that were submitted had this fireplace on the drawings, and it was just missed at that time, but caught at
Yes,
actual
I actually
construction.
looked back. I looked back in my records and my emails that I sent, and that was on there originally.
Okay.
Okay. Other board members?
Madam Chair, this is Jill DeLong. Question for staff. Because this does add additional impervious, and it is just underneath the percentage, are there any recommended water mitigation or stormwater management?
Madam Chair, members of the board, no, just due to the fact that because of the size of the property, and if we were trying to direct stormwater or roof runoff from the house, we're just going to put it on somebody else's property.
Okay, thank you. Other board?
Dennis Gregory, a question.
Go ahead, Dennis.
Dennis Gregory, a question for staff. I'm just following up on Mike Haynes' question and Dan Ekstrom's response. What does Stearns County Environmental Services provide to the contractor to assure that they know what the rules and ordinances are regarding not expanding the footprint of the building? Do they receive something in writing, or is that all a verbal discussion?
Madam Chair, members of the board, I would have to say that that's a discussion between the person that's reviewing the application and the building contractor. We try to stay consistent on our message on when, especially on a replacement of an existing nonconformity. However, I can't answer what questions or what happened between staff and the contractor because I was not the staff person that was in contact with the contractor.
Okay, thank you. Other questions?
Dave Gamrod for staff.
Go ahead, Dave.
My question would be is staff did not notice that they were over the legal limit on this on the plans that were submitted?
Madam Chair, members of the board, I can't answer that question because I was not the staff person that reviewed the construction site application permit. And we don't have it as part of the variance file.
Okay, thank you. Additional questions?
Dennis Gregory, if I may just make a comment, just following up on a number of questions here. As a board member for looking at the adjustments or variances, it would be great if there was some type of a written document that the contractor signed that they understood what the ordinances require, so that we could be very definitive both to the contractor and as a board member. It would be a lot easier to know who knew what and when.
Well, that's a good suggestion, and maybe that's something that we can have further, look into further for in the future.
I would agree.
All right, any other
Dave Gamrod.
Go ahead, Dave.
My question would be is, evidently when they first noticed that it was not within the proper footprint, there was just a footing cord. Was it allowed to be finished construction after that?
Again, I can't answer that, Dave. I wasn't part of that permit, construction site permit. What I can tell you is that The foundation was poured without having a valid construction site permit.
And maybe the contractor could speak to that.
Okay, this is Dan Ekstrom. When I got to the job site to start, when we decided to tear it down, I submitted the plans to the county via email, and we started on the project due to the weather. We were just, trying to beat Mother Nature, and which we did. We poured the foundation and the footings and the floor and everything in the first week of January. And then they came out about a week or so later after it was framed up, and then I got the email saying that it was not conforming, but they didn't say stop. So we just kept going with it.
Okay, Shelley Benson from Environmental Services.
Madam Chair, I don't know if is my microphone on? It doesn't sound like it's on. I just got an email from Jennifer Buckentine, who said that she's listening to the meeting and that the bump out was in the plans and built on site, and that's why they're applying for the variance. So I'm not quite sure. I asked her to clarify, so I am trying to get more correspondence from the person who was working on the building permit.
All right, did board members hear that?
I don't know if my mic is on.
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
we weren't sure if her mic was picking up. And if we hear any more email correspondence from Jennifer, we'll interrupt discussion and let you know. Other questions? Is there anyone in the audience or on the phone lines that would like to speak to this item? If not, I believe we're ready for findings of fact. So if we could have a motion to close the public hearing.
Madam
Okay.
Chair, Sean Blackman here. I move we
could we
close the public hearing.
And before we move forward on that, we do just received some email information, so if you could please hold.
Okay, so what I have in the information from Jennifer is, in her review process, she asked for detailed building plans. When she finally got them, they had the bump out, and then I told them that it couldn't be there and that a variance would be needed. So then I also saw that the foundation was built, so that they decided that they wanted to keep it rather than remove it, so they're applying for the variance.
That is true. This is Dan Ekstrom.
Okay, thank you. So let's go back to our motion for closing the public hearing. Could the,
Madam Chair, Jill DeLong, I second the motion to close.
all right, so we have a motion and a second. All in favor? Or anyone not in favor of closing the public hearing? All right, then the public hearing is now closed. We're ready for to look at findings of fact. And as we did with previous findings of fact, I will accept one person to make discussion on it and then ask if there is anyone that does not agree. And this is an after the fact, so the findings are slightly different than previous applications. Number one, is the proposed use allowed in the zoning district in which the subject property is located?
Dennis Gregory, it's R1 zoning district, resident is an allowed use.
All right, does anyone disagree with Dennis's assessment? Hearing none, number one is marked as unanimous. Number two, is the variance in harmony with the general purposes and intent of the official controls?
Mike Kane, 9.91 says that the residential development can be constructed under R1 zoning.
All right, does anyone disagree with Mike's assessment of number 2 being yes? Hearing none, it's marked as unanimous yes. Number 3, is the variance request consistent with a comprehensive plan?
Mike Kane, under goal number 6, objective 3, identify appropriate locations for seasonal home settings of affordable variety and natural amenities. They've reconstructed the home.
All right, is anyone in disagreement with Mike's assessment of number 3 being yes? Number 3 is marked as unanimous yes. Number 4, is the property owner proposing to use the property in a reasonable manner not permitted by the official controls?
Madam Chair, I believe that adding on a fireplace to a seasonal home is a reasonable manner to use that seasonable home. So yes, that is a reasonable manner.
All right, is anyone in disagreement with Jill's assessment for number 4 as yes?
Dave Gamrod, I would disagree because they went above the previous size of the building. So it wasn't, wasn't legal.
All right, since we don't have unanimous on this one, I will do a roll call. We have yes from Jill, no from Dave. Dennis?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Jake? We'll come back to Jake. Sean?
Yep, yes.
Jake?
It was a yes.
Yes.
And I will vote yes. So we have 6 yeses and 1 no on number 4. Number 5, is the plight of the landowner due to circumstances unique to the property not created by the landowner?
Well, Dennis Gregory, the plight of the landowner is subject to circumstances that are unique to the property, and that is that there was an existing structure on the property, which then defined the footprint that the new structure could be constructed to, and so that is unique to that property.
All right. Do we have any disagreement with Dennis's assessment for number 5 as a yes? Hearing none, I will mark number 5 as unanimous yes. Number 6, will the variance maintain the essential character of the locality? Yes or no?
Madam Chair, this is Jill DeLong. I don't believe that adding a fireplace to a seasonal home will change the locality at all.
Is there any disagreement with Jill's assessment for number 6 as a yes? Hearing none, I'll mark that as unanimous yes. Number 7, the need for the variance involves more than economic considerations. I don't believe that economics were part of this decision to add the fireplace. Does anyone disagree with that assessment? Hearing none, I will mark 7 as a unanimous yes. We are ready for a motion.
Madam Chair, I would, Dennis Gregory, I would move that we approve the variance for the applicants to leave as constructed the house that they have, which is an expansion of the footprint of a legal non-conforming structure.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Madam Chair, Sean Blackburn here. I'll make a second on that motion.
All right, we have a motion and a second. I'll do a roll call for the rest of the members. Jill?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Dave?
No.
Jake?
Yes.
And myself, I will vote yes. So we have a 6-1 vote. The motion carries. The request is approved. Our next item for this evening is to consider a request from Sean and Mickey Kelly, Sauk Centre, Minnesota, from section 6.2.1A of the Stearns County Land Use and Zoning Ordinance 439 to construct a residential accessory structure that exceeds the maximum allowable sidewall height, building height, and total building area on a lot that is 1 to 1.99 acres in lot size in the Shoreland Overlays District. The said ordinance allows for a maximum building area of 1,500 square feet, maximum sidewall height of 12 feet, and a maximum building height of 20 feet on lots of 1 to 1.99 acres in lot size. The affected property is Lot 8 of Block 1, North Shore Estates, Section 34, Track 127 North, Range 34 West of Sauk Centre Township, and the property address is 44016 of 405th Avenue, Sauk Centre, Minnesota. And is the applicant present?
Yes.
The applicant is present on site, and following the staff's overview, you will have an opportunity to give your input. So staff?
Madam Chair, members of the board, the applicants currently own Lot 7, Block 1 of North Shore Estates, which was platted in 2002. The lot is approximately 46,682 square feet in lot area. Mr. Kelly purchased the property in 2004. In 2005, Mr. Kelly applied for and received a construction site permit 34-14467 for a new residential dwelling with attached garage, deck, and a 30 foot by 50 foot detached residential accessory structure. A new subsurface sewage treatment system was installed at that time under permit 34-19756. The detached accessory structure was never constructed. In 2007, Mr. Kelly applied for and received a construction site permit to construct a third stall on the attached garage, 34-15998. That permit expired and the construction of the garage addition did not occur. Mr. Kelly then applied for and received a construction site permit to construct a four-season porch addition, an attached garage addition, and an addition to the residential dwelling in 2014 under permit P-000660. The applicants are now proposing to construct a 40 by 60 foot, 2,400 square feet residential accessory structure with 12 foot, 8.5 inch sidewall height and building height of 24 feet, 2.5 inches. The maximum allowable residential accessory building is 1,500 square feet with a maximum of 12-foot sidewall height and a maximum allowable building height of 20 feet. The property is located in the Shoreland Overlay District of Big Sauk Lake, but is not a riparian lot and is approximately 220 feet from the ordinary high water level of the lake. The property is not located in floodplain, and Big Sauk Lake is on the list of lakes impaired for aquatic consumption and aquatic recreation. The property is located in an R5 zoning district. The subsurface sewage treatment system on the property was installed in 2005 under permit 34-19756, and the last compliance inspection was completed on April 25th of 2014. A compliance inspection is required to be completed not later than June 15th of 2020. The current impervious lot coverage is approximately 7,534 square feet, or 16%. The proposed 2,400 square foot accessory structure would bring the impervious lot coverage to approximately 9,934 square feet, or 21.2%, without a driveway to the proposed accessory structure. The proposed accessory structure is a 62.5% increase of what is allowed for structure size, and a 6% increase of what is allowed for sidewall height, and an 18% increase of what is allowed for building height. The alternative would be to meet their detached residential accessory structure performance standards for lots 1 to 1.99 acres. There are a limited number of residential accessory structures in that locality that would be the proposed size of this structure. Sauk Center Township, Big Sauk Lake Association, the Sauk River Watershed District, the Minnesota Department of Natural Resources, and property owners within 500 feet have been notified of the request. The applicant will be required to follow the performance standards and submit a provisional use application if the variance is granted. And Madam Chair, we received email correspondence from approximately 8 to 10 residents that were within the 500 feet. All of them are in support of the application, and they are included in the record. We did also receive an email from Missy Shermers, who is the township clerk for Sauk Center Township, and on behalf of the township, they don't have an issue with the size of the accessory structure as long as it's still under the 25% lot coverage. And then I would ask how many board members did not make it to the site. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And if the applicants now could share with us their thoughts.
Sean Kelly, address 44016 405th Avenue, Sauk Center, Minnesota. The reason for the accessory structure is to house all my construction equipment that I, as of right now, have at various locations, renting shed space from other people to house it all. So the maximum building area of 1,500 square feet will not meet the needs of my construction company to house the equipment that I have thus far, or future needs. So that's why I'm proposing the 40 by 60. The 12-foot sidewall height, I can't get the equipment in the building with a 12-foot sidewall because I can only get a 10-foot door, and I need 12-foot doors to get my equipment in, so that's why I'm going for as high as I possibly can to get a 12-foot door in the structure. That's it.
All right, thank you. Questions from the board for either staff or the applicant?
Madam Chair, Jill DeLong, question for staff. I look at the aerial photo and it shows this property and the direct neighboring ones. They don't seem to have a shed of this size, but if you zoom out, I believe it's further north on this road, there are homes that do have large garages similar in size to the proposed one here. Do those lots have variances, or are they far enough away from the water that they don't have that requirement?
Madam Chair, members of the board, it would depend on when the accessory structure was constructed. When the zoning ordinance took effect in 2000 is when we adopted the size standards for accessory structures, if it was prior to April of 2000, some of those structures could have been by conditional use permit, or they were just permitted larger because the size standards were different at that time.
Okay, thank you. Additional questions?
Yes, Madam Chair, again, Jill DeLong, I have a question. So it sounds like the impervious value is under the percentage that's without a driveway to the proposed accessory structure. I have concerns about the weight of the machinery that's going to be stored in this garage, especially if they do not have a driveway, because I think that would probably sink down into the grass. So are there plans for a driveway, or how does the applicant plan on mitigating the weight in the yard?
All right, applicant, if you would like to comment on that?
There would be not a concrete driveway right away, probably like a class 5 type driveway to start with, and then like I think on the application I put a proposed driveway to the structure that would be down the road.
Can you come closer to the mic?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that better?
That'd be great. Thank
Okay.
you.
So,
Okay, and a question for staff in regard to that would this proposed driveway, is that included in the current impervious surface numbers?
No.
Right.
And so if he added that, is there, would he need a permit for adding that, or is that just something that would happen?
Madam Chair, I think that would be a discussion at the time of when he applies for his construction site permit, because then we would want to see how wide his access is and what he would be limited to for size of driveway at the time that we were reviewing the construction site permit application.
And I have another question for staff. If the purpose of this shed is to store a commercial business's equipment, how does that relate to how this property is zoned as a residential area?
Madam Chair, members of the board, you would have to submit a provisional use application and abide by the performance standards for that provisional use for, I believe it would be a home extended business. You would only be able to house so many employees or have so many employees on site, would regulate sign and noise, screening, so on and so forth.
Okay, thank you. Question for the applicant. Then would this just solely be storage of this equipment, or would there be employees coming and going from this location?
just strictly storage.
Strictly storage.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, other board member questions?
Madam Chair, following up on your and Jill's questions, page 6 shows a driveway to that building, and so if that's already in the application, it would be helpful to understand whether that puts us over the 25% impervious surface.
Then an extending question on that. If the applicant could give us just an estimate of how long that driveway would be and what the width of it would be, we could rough up what the percentage of the impervious surface would be.
I'm going to tell you the exact length. The width, I would probably say at the shop area, I would probably do an apron. That would be the width of the shop by like 20 feet out, and then the rest would just taper back to like a 14-foot driveway to extend into the existing driveway. But I couldn't tell you. I would say from the driveway to the shed, I would say is probably, I don't even know for sure, 100 and some feet maybe. I could be way off, but probably not that long. I don't think I've ever measured that part out.
So, staff, if we just averaged, he said between 14, or starting at 20 and narrowing down to 14, so if we just did an average of 16 by 1,600 square feet, what would that be in a percentage of the property?
Approximately 24.7%.
So still under.
All right. And if our calculations were
Madam
off just a
Chair?
little bit, it still would allow for a little bit. Yes, Jill?
Yes. Sorry, Madam Chair, this is Jill. I feel like that is so close to the percentage that would it make more sense to perhaps continue this application so that we can get actual numbers and see what the actual number will be?
I believe that could be part of our discussion, whether we want to do that or not. We might want to get a feeling from board members whether that would make a difference in their decision or not.
Madam Chair, this is Sean Blackburn. Yes, I feel pretty strongly about that impervious surface level, and I agree with Jill. That's just kind of leaving it out there and saying, hey, we'll do this in the future at some point, and don't worry, we'll do it right. I don't know about that.
Okay, opinions of other board members?
Dennis Gregory, I agree with both Sean and Jill's thoughts. I would add to that I'm not, from everything I've heard so far, I'm not probably in favor of building a commercial building in a residential area in any case, regardless of the impervious surface.
And as I drove through that neighborhood, yes, I did see one or two larger sheds, but just visually looking at it, didn't really think that there were other sheds that were as big as what's being proposed. There was one that was on the other side of the road, a few houses up, a two-tone brown shed that looked like it possibly could be that large. But other than that one, I didn't really see any others that I thought were as big as what's being proposed.
Madam Chair, Sean Blackburn here. I don't know. I think we don't want to really be messing with calling something a business building. It's personal storage of business vehicles. I don't know how we would break that down or look at that. I don't know if that's really a factor that we need to try to apply. But I'm still, even aside from that, whether or not we should proceed in looking at it without some serious numbers is the issue.
Madam Chair, Dennis Gregory. Let me clarify my earlier comments. Sean is exactly right. It doesn't matter whether it's a commercial or a personal building. My thoughts were simply on the size of the building, and its intended use was commercial. That's why I use that term. But that size of the building, I don't think is appropriate in this particular area. And so while I'm interested in the impervious surface, to me, that's not a deciding factor.
All right, could I hear
Madam
from?
Chair.
Yes, go ahead.
That's Mike Kane. Just if we decide to move forward on this with the impervious, could we just say the driveway cannot exceed the 25% of the driveway width and length?
And
You get the 25 impervious in a
Would have to stay under.
in some kind of a statement with the approval, if it got approved.
all right, I do see the applicant nodding his head. That would you be in agreement with that? All right, and also I want to find from staff of how we would do that.
It would just be a condition of the construction site permit where he would have to submit with his application for construction site permit the size and length of the proposed driveway to the accessory structure.
Yep, that'd be great.
right.
Dave Gamrod? I have a
Yes.
question for staff. There's also a deep well located up in that corner. Is there a setback from that deep well?
Where is that located, Dave? Oh, I can't.
Madam Chair, members of the board, that would be through the well code, but it needs to be at least 2 or 3 feet from the overhang of the roof.
Okay.
Okay. I'm going to open it up to others. Is there anyone in the audience here on site or anyone on the phone that would like to comment on this application? Okay, hearing none, does the board have further questions or comments as far as how they would like to proceed?
Madam Chair, I'll close the public hearing.
All right, we have a motion to close the public hearing. Is there a second?
Dennis Gregory, I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second to close the public hearing. Anyone not in favor of that, please state. All right, public hearing is now closed. We are ready for findings of fact. Number 1, the proposed use is allowed in the zoning district in which the subject property is located.
Madam Chair, 9.71R5 zoning allows accessory structures.
Okay. Is there anyone that disagrees? I believe that was Mike. Is there anyone that disagrees with Mike's assessment? I will mark that as unanimous yes. Number 2, the variance will be in harmony with the general purposes and intent of the official controls and any related ordinances, yes or no?
Madam Chair, this is Jill DeLong. I believe it will not be in harmony with the general purposes and intent of the official controls, because I believe the official controls are trying to put a limit on the size of accessory structures. We allow an accessory structure, but this one is 62.5% larger than what's allowed.
All right, we have, is there anyone that disagrees with Jill's assessment of it being a no? In other words, anyone that is voting yes on number 2. Hearing none, I will mark question number 2 as a unanimous no to that question. Number 3, the variance will be consistent with the comprehensive plan, yes or no?
Dennis Gregory, I would say no. Goal 3, objective 1, is to discourage incompatible land uses. And I think this size of a structure is an incompatible land use with the residential area.
All right, is there anyone that disagrees with Dennis's assessment of this question, answering no? Hearing none, I will mark this as unanimous no. Number 4, the property owner proposes to use the property in a reasonable manner, yes or no?
I think Dennis Gregory, I think constructing a accessory structure is a reasonable use of the property.
Is there anyone that disagrees with Dennis's assessment answering yes to number 4? I will mark number 4 as unanimous yes.
No, Madam Chair, I have to say no, because
Is that Sean?
Yeah.
I'm sorry?
Is this Sean speaking?
Yes.
Okay. All right, then.
Just when we talk about. I'm just going to say that 62% increase over the size of the structure that is allowable is not reasonable.
All right, since we have a disagreement on that one, I will do a roll call. So on number 4, I have Dennis as a yes, Sean as a no. Jill?
I'm not sure. Can I abstain?
Yes. Mike?
Yes.
Dave?
Yes.
Jake?
Yes.
And I will say yes. So we have 5 yeses, 1 no, and 1 member abstaining. Number 5, the plight of the landowner is due to circumstances unique to the property, not created by the landowner, yes or no? I believe the request for this size of a shed is created by the landowner. It's his personal need, so I would say no, that is not unique to the property. Is there anyone that disagrees with the no assessment for number 5? Hearing none, number 5 will be marked as unanimous no. Number 6, the variance, if granted, maintains the essential character of the locality, yes or no?
Madam Chair, this is Jill DeLong. I believe all the cabins along the lake that are right next to this house, having a accessory structure of this size will change the essential character of the locality.
Right. Is there anyone that disagrees with Jill's assessment of 6 being a no? Hearing none, I will mark it as a unanimous no. Number 7, the need for the variance involves more than economic considerations, yes or no?
Madam Chair, Mike Kane, economics weren't discussed as a part of this application.
Is there anyone that disagrees with Mike's assessment of yes for number 7? I'll mark that as a unanimous yes for number 7. We're ready for a motion.
Madam Chair, Dennis Gregory, I would make a motion that we deny applicant's request for a variance to construct a residential accessory structure that exceeds the maximum allowable sidewall height, building height, and total building area.
We have a motion to deny, a second, and Jill seconds it. I'll do a roll call on that. So Dennis and Jill are both no. Mike?
No.
Dave?
No.
Jake?
No.
Sean?
No.
And I also will be a no. The motion is denied. You can check with staff during regular business hours, I believe via the phone now that the
Yep.
buildings are closed, so you
Just
could
call.
call in and have a conversation as to what your next steps would be for moving forward.
Is Schneider's going to be here?
There are people in the halls.
Okay, I will check with Schneider.
All right, we're waiting for just a moment. We have an applicant that's waiting in the hallway, and we'll be waiting for them to come in. Oh, he's right here.
Come on up. All right. And now and wife, just make sure you talk close to the microphone.
All right, thank you.
All right, do we have everyone present then that's waiting for this one? Believe so?
Yeah.
All right, we are ready to move on to item number 5. Item number 5 is to consider a request from Brian J. Schneider Revocable Trust, Plymouth, Minnesota, from sections 5.2.1A1 and 5.2.1C1, 6.25.1B, 10.2.11A1A, and 10.2.12B2 and 3 of the Stearns County Land Use and Zoning Ordinance 439 to expand and replace a legal non-conforming guest cottage that does not meet size, building height, or lake setback requirements. The said ordinance allows for the replacement of a legal non-conforming structure, guest cottage. However, the ordinance does not allow for the expansion of a guest cottage. The affected property is Lot 1, Block 1, and Lot 2, Block 1 of Birch Bay Estates, Section 16, Track 124 North, Range 30 West of Collegeville Township, with the property address of 29357 Kingsdale Circle, Cold Spring, Minnesota. And you are?
Brian Schneider.
Oh,
Right.
I'm actually, can you pull it up a little? I want to make sure you can get heard. Can you say it again?
Brian Schneider.
Can they hear that?
Can you hear the applicant?
Yes.
Okay, just making
Board
sure.
members.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. And if you could also put your your address, state your address, please. The applicant.
For the lake home, 29357 Kingsdale Circle.
That's
That'll be
fine.
My
And
pardon?
your home address, please?
17390 45th Avenue North in Plymouth, Minnesota.
Thank you. And as soon as staff has given us an overview, you will have an opportunity to share your thoughts with us. And staff?
Madam Chair, members of the board, the applicant currently owns Lot 1, Block 1 of Birch Bay Estates and Lot 2, Block 1 of Birch Bay Estates that were platted in 1985. Lot 1 is approximately 4.1 acres in lot area, and Lot 2 is approximately 3.3 acres in lot area. The original owners purchased both lots in September of 1988. At the time of purchase, there was an existing residential dwelling, 17 feet by 32 feet, with a 9-foot by 22-foot porch and a 12-foot by 17-foot deck, and detached garage 20 feet by 22 feet that was constructed in 1946 per the assessor's records. Both the residential dwelling and the detached garage are legal nonconforming structures, as they were both constructed prior to the official control, and both do not meet setback requirements to the ordinary high water level of Big Watab Lake. The original owners applied for and received a variance 94-53 to place a septic tank 70 feet from the ordinary high water level of Big Watab Lake that serves this residential dwelling. The subsurface sewage treatment system was installed on September 1st, 1994 under permit 5-11341 and is sized for 4 bedrooms. These owners then applied for and received a variance 95-36 to construct a new residential dwelling on Lot 1, Block 1 of Birch Bay Estates, which had the existing cabin on it. The new residential dwelling was constructed under permit 5-8849 issued on March 4th, 1997, which was constructed mostly on Lot 1, Block 1 of Birch Bay Estates, but is located on both Lot 1, Block 1, and Lot 2, Block 1. The subsurface sewage treatment system for the new residential dwelling consisted of adding a septic adding septic tank capacity under permit 05-13857, installed on October 28th of 1997. The applicants purchased the property March 27th, 2018, with the existing legal non-conforming cabin and detached accessory structure and the permitted residential dwelling. The applicants applied for and received a construction site permit P-013622 to construct a 40-foot by 48-foot residential accessory structure that is wholly on Lot 2, Block 1 of Birch Bay Estates. The applicants are requesting a variance to replace the existing legal nonconforming cabin that is 18 feet in height, 17 feet by 32 feet, with a full basement and with an approximately 136 square foot upper level, a 9-foot by 22-foot single-story porch with no basement. The proposed replacement structure is a full 2 stories with a full basement on the same dimensions, 17 feet by 32 feet and 9 feet by 22 feet, with a structure height of 25 feet 6 inches. The existing structure square footage of floor area is 1,422 square feet. The proposed structure square footage of floor area is 2,226 square feet. The property is located in the Shoreland Overlay District of Big Watap Lake, is not located in floodplain, and Big Watap Lake is on the impaired list for aquatic consumption. The property is located in a R1 zoning district. The subsurface sewage treatment system on the property is compliant per compliance inspection P-010671, completed on May 23rd of 2018, and is sized for 4 bedrooms. The current impervious lot coverage is approximately 5.5%, or 17,724 square feet. The alternatives to the requested variance are replacement of the structure to the same structural dimensions, or replace the structure with a structure that meets the guest cottage performance standards of structure height of 15 feet and shall not cover more than 700 square feet. Collegeville Township, the Minnesota Department of Natural Resources, the Big Watap Lake Association, and property owners within 500 feet have been notified of this request. We have received correspondence. We have from Jerry and Marge Hirschfeld and Josh Hirschfeld, 1203 4th Avenue North, Cold Spring, and 27867 County Road 50, Cold Spring, regarding the variance. They list in their letter that property site density, the density of the property on site is a factor of the requested variance versus proposed residential units on said site. With the requested variance, a 7.4 acre site will have 2 residential sites with an average of 3.7 acres per site. Using an estimated 100 residential sites on Big Watap Lake, approximately 95% of the sites are less than 1 acre. Based on the proposed density factor, we are in favor of the requested variance and expansion of the building. The existing building has been deteriorating for the past 50 years and it's in need of significant repairs. The proposed variance would replace an old building with an expanded new building that would be in compliance with all current building codes and ensure the safety of the residents. Based on meeting the Stearns County building codes for safety of the residents, we are in favor of this request. The next one is from Whitney and Stephanie Johnson of 29311 Kingsdale Circle. I would like to submit a comment in support of the request by the Brian J. Schneider Revocable Trust to expand and replace a non-conforming guest cottage. We are neighbors and we support the requested changes. The changes are needed and will conform to the existing use of the property. We also have correspondence from Joan and Mark Strobel, co-chairs of the Big Watab Lake Association Water Quality Committee, and they live at 16522 Laurel Road, St. Joseph, Minnesota. Dear Mr. Knopfler, we are writing on behalf of the Big Watab Lake Association Water Quality Committee in response to the letter we received on March 10th relative to the request by Brian J. Schneider Revocable Trust to expand and replace a legal nonconforming guest cottage that does not meet size, building height, or lake setback requirements in opposition to Stearns County Land Use and Zoning Ordinance 439. We strongly oppose granting a variance for the trust to expand a guest cottage beyond the existing footprint. Given the relatively small watershed of Big Watab Lake, our committee has determined that the water quality of Big Watab Lake is strongly affected by runoff from developed properties directly surrounding the lake. This has been documented in 2 reports previously presented to the Lake Association Board and membership. The location of the existing nonconforming guest cottage on the trust property is already an issue in terms of hardened surface runoff into Big Watab Lake. Allowing expansion of this structure beyond the current footprint will negatively affect water quality. We understand that the ordinance allows for replacement of this structure, but expansion should simply not be allowed. And then they have in parentheses, we can supply the water quality studies for your reference if desired. Thank you for your consideration of our comments. And then we received an email today from Marcy Sohn of 15 Coal Mine View, Portela Valley, California. However, she owns property also at 29537 Kestrel Lane in St. Joe. And she states, I am writing in request that any guest house built to replace the existing cottage on the point would be sited as far as possible from the lakefront and also as far from our adjoining property at 29537 Kestrel Lane as possible without causing any disturbance to the bluff behind. Thank you. And then I would ask if any members did not make it to the site.
Okay. And I would mention that I did have a conversation with Mr. Schneider. He just escorted me down to where the cottage was and described to me the project.
This is Jill DeLong. I agree. I also had a discussion with Mr. Schneider, and he gave me a tour of the cabin and talked to me about why he wants to replace.
Dave Gamrod, I also had a discussion with the applicant.
And just a reminder to all of you that are calling in, board members and applicants and the public, that we do hear feedback from you moving around and other noises in your homes. So if you could please use the *5 to mute when you're not speaking, you'll still be able to hear the conversation. And when you're ready to speak, use the *7 to unmute. That would be helpful on this end. All right, if the applicant could share with us what they would like for this evening.
Thank you. Appreciate the board hosting the meeting and everybody making out to the property. I've been on the lake for 15 years and appreciated working with the county. We originally bought the property because we planned to live there permanently, and specifically bought the property with the cottage. The intention is to live there seasonally, just in the summer, and but stay in the main house. Currently, that property is not livable. The water mains were frozen. Electrical doesn't work. Between squirrels and mice, they've kind of eaten through the place. It's not safe, so it needs to be replaced. We've been working with Sherry and Mark Klein Builders and an architect for a couple years now. We've tried to take in comments from, met early on before we bought the property with Dave Nett to get Shoreline's view. I know Sherry has worked and talked to the county to minimize any variance requests we have. We've had discussions with the neighbors, all the resident neighbors, to accommodate their views. We're not intending on blocking any views, and I appreciate Marcy's comment as it relates to her property. As far as the Lake Association, we greatly value this lake, but I'm not sure that they spent time because we're not proposing to increase the roof, the kind of roof line, the surface area. There would be no additional runoff or watershed from the existing property. So I think that's, the statement is, I respect that association. They've done a great job with this lake, but frankly, it's just not accurate because the amount of surface area on the roof would not increase. And then I do want to clarify one thing. I talked to Dave about it. The building height, when it was measured originally, the 18 feet, Mark and the Kleins went out and measured the building from the below the floor level to the porch, the ground. From the ground level to the top of the roof line. It was 24 feet, not 18 feet. And Dave said just to mention that in the context of this meeting. So we originally had about a 30-foot roof up from the 24. After several conversations, we reduced that to a minimum height of, I think, 25.5 feet. So I guess we're just here to respectfully request a variance for that amount. I don't know if Mark and Sherry are on the line or if it's appropriate for them to speak.
We will have an opportunity for anyone in the public to speak. So if they are on the line, they would have an opportunity to do that.
Thank you. That's all I have.
All right. Board members, questions for either staff or the applicant at this time?
Dennis Gregory, just a clarification with staff. The applicant just mentioned that the actual height of the building is 24 feet, and they're requesting a variance ultimately to go to 25.6. Is that accurate, or is there a difference in how each of these measurements is being determined?
Madam Chair, members of the board, the measurement I used was for the variance when the house was first built, the larger home. The staff report in that variance request for the original owners to build the home said that the guest cabin was only 18 feet in height, and it listed the square footage of the floor area, which was less than what it is now. However, that's the only measurement that I had. I didn't have a measurement of the actual building height.
So, Dennis Gregory again. Dave, would you concur that the current building is 24 feet in height, or do you not know whether it is or not?
Without measuring it, Dennis, I couldn't tell you if it's 24 feet or 18 feet. Even if it is 24 feet, it still would be, if it went to 25 feet, it would still be an expansion of a legal non-conforming structure.
Yeah.
And I have a question for staff. If you can describe in the ordinance, is there a difference between restrictions and what's permittable to a regular residence in compared to a guest house, or are the requirements basically the same?
Madam Chair, members of the board, there are guest cottage standards in the land use and zoning ordinance in the Shoreland Overlay District. It's in section 10.2. You can
put them up on the screen if you want to.
So it's 10.2.12B, and it's under special provisions, and that's in the, under the Shoreland Overlay District standards. And it states guest cottages. One guest cottage may be allowed on a lot meeting or exceeding the duplex lot area and with requirements set forth in section 10.2.8 of this ordinance, provided all the following standards are met. For a lot exceeding the minimum lot dimensions of a duplex lot, the guest cottage shall be located within the smallest duplex size lot that could be created, including the principal dwelling unit, and a guest cottage shall not cover more than 700 square feet of land surface and shall not exceed 15 feet in height. And a guest cottage shall be located or designed to reduce its visibility as viewed from public waters and adjacent wetlands by vegetation, topography, increased setbacks, color, or other means acceptable to the county, assuming leaf-on conditions. So there are standards for guest cottages. This cottage would, while it may meet the size standard, it would not meet the setback standard and or the height standard. And it doesn't meet the, right now it doesn't meet the setback from the lake. It's less than 100 feet from the OHW of Watab Lake.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
Mike Gaines. I got
Go ahead,
another
Mike.
question to follow up with you. Could this house ever be broken off and sold as a separate parcel as a regular residence, or does it have to stay with this property listed as guest house?
Madam Chair, members of the board, that they would have to replat to separate those lots. Unfortunately, when the previous owners built the house, they built it over the property line. So technically those houses are, or that house is on two lots, so therefore those lots are combined.
Okay.
Okay. So without resurveying and realigning it, replatting it, they would not be able to sell it as is. All right, thank you. Other board questions?
Dennis Gregory, just a confirmation. So if they build a structure that's 1,422 square feet, and to the height that it is currently, whether that's 18 or 24 feet, then no need for this variance, correct?
That is correct, because it would be a legal, not existing, non-conforming structure.
Okay. All right, is there anyone in the audience that would like to address this application? Is there anyone on the phone lines that would like to speak at this time? Okay, hearing none, we'll proceed. Board members, are there more questions before we close the public hearing? Hearing no additional questions, I'll open it up to a motion to close the public hearing.
Mike Gaines, so move.
All right, we have a motion to close the public hearing. Is there a second? Jill seconding. And is there anyone that is not in favor of closing the public hearing? All right, I will take that as a unanimous yes. And we were ready to do findings of fact. Number one, the proposed use is allowed in the zoning district in which the subject property is located, yes or no? Guest houses are permitted in this area, so I would say that this is a yes. Is there anyone that disagrees with that, with the yes for number 1? Hearing none, I will mark number 1 as unanimous yes. Number 2, the variance will be in harmony with the general purposes and intent of the official controls and any related ordinances, yes or no?
Madam Chair, it sounds like this cottage will have the same footprint. It will only be slightly taller compared to when the original cottage was built. Slightly taller makes sense to me for modern, just human sizes. I believe that it is in harmony with the general purpose, which is to not expand beyond the footprint or the impact on the environment, and I don't believe a couple extra feet on top of the building will impact all.
All right. Is there anyone that disagrees with Jill's determination of yes for number 2? Hearing none, I will mark number 2 as a unanimous yes. Number 3, the variance will be consistent with the comprehensive plan, yes or no?
Madam Chair, I believe it is consistent with the comprehensive plan for land use plan, growth and development, goal 4, objective 4, which is sustaining the current livability and diversity of Stearns County, encouraging a diversity of housing opportunities. But we are just replacing a cottage with another cottage in the same footprint, so we are sustaining the current livability.
All right. Is there anyone that disagrees with yes for number 3? Hearing none, I will mark that as a unanimous yes. Number 4, the property owner proposes to use the property in a reasonable manner, yes or no?
Mike Kane, I believe the owner is using it in a proper manner and making improvements to the cottage so it's actually usable, it's reasonable.
All right. Is there anyone that disagrees with the determination of yes for number 4? Hearing none, I will mark it as a unanimous yes. Number 5, the plight of the landowner is due to circumstances unique to the property, not created by the landowner.
Dennis Gregory, the location of the current guest house is unique to the property and was not created by the landowner.
Is there anyone that disagrees with the determination of yes for number 5? I will mark number 5 as unanimous yes. Number 6, the variance, if granted, maintains the essential character of the locality, yes or no?
Madam Chair, Jill DeLong, the current locality has a cottage. He's replacing a cottage with another cottage that's about the same size. I do not believe it will change the essential character.
Is there anyone that disagrees with yes for number 6? Hearing none, I will mark it as a unanimous yes. Number 7, the need for the variance involves more than economic considerations, yes or no?
She's probably ready to go.
Could you repeat that, please? Okay, is there someone that is ready to? Yes.
Madam Chair, Dennis Gregory, I do not think economics were involved in this discussion.
All right, is there anyone that disagrees with the determination of yes for number 7? All right, hearing none, I will mark that as unanimous yes. We are ready for motion.
Dennis Gregory, I'll make a motion that we approve the variance for the applicant to expand and replace a legal non-conforming guest cottage that does not meet the size, building height, or lake setback requirements.
Do we have a second?
Jill DeLong, I second it.
All right, we have a motion, and I'll do a roll call. Dennis and Jill, I have both as yes. Mike?
Yes.
Dave?
Yes.
Jake?
Yes.
Sean?
Yes.
And I will also be a yes. So motion carries. The variance has been offered. Thank you.
Thank you.
You can come out this way.
Yeah.
Oh, once, yeah, you got your stuff. That's all right.
Our next item on our agenda is number 6, to consider a request from Timothy and Catherine Jansen, Avon, Minnesota, from section 6.2.1P, table M, of the Stearns County Subsurface Sewage Treatment System Ordinance 422 and section 10.2.11A 2 and 3 of the Stearns County Land Use and Zoning Ordinance 439 to construct an addition that does not meet the structural setback from an existing subsurface soil treatment area, a drain field, and to construct an addition and deck that is ahead of the established building line. The said ordinances require a structural setback of at least 20 feet from an existing subsurface soil treatment area drain field and requires that additions and decks are constructed to be at or behind the established building line respectively. The affected property is lots 27 and 28 in Connaught, Section 33, Track 125 North, Range 30 West of Avon Township. The property address is 32915 Spunk Tree Circle, Avon, Minnesota. And the applicants are present here, is that correct?
Yep, present.
And if you could state your name and your address, please.
Tim Jansen, 32915 Spunk Tree Circle, Avon, Minnesota.
Okay, thank you. And if we could have the report from the board, or from the staff members, please.
Madam Chair, members of the board. The applicant currently owns a legal non-conforming tracker record that is approximately 15,569 square feet of lot area, which was purchased in 2015. The residential dwelling and original subsurface sewage treatment system on the property was constructed in 1997 under permit 03-2174 and variance 76-128 at the established building line in 1976 by the original owner. It appears that this owner constructed an addition, a single-story enclosed porch on the lake side of the residential dwelling that is ahead of the established building line, and several other additions on the northwest side of the residential dwelling where there was not a record of a construction site permit being issued for these additions. In 1995, the owner of the property applied for and received a variance to leave the existing septic tank 8 feet from the residential dwelling, and a new subsurface sewage treatment area was installed at that time under permit 03-12106 that met structural setback requirements. In 2015, a compliance inspection was completed and the septic tank was determined to be non-compliant and was replaced under permit P-003974. The applicant is proposing to remodel and construction of additions on the existing residential dwelling on the lakeside, roadside, and northwest side of the existing structure. The lakeside addition is an 8-inch by 19-foot 8-inch two-story addition and an 8-foot by 8-inch by 29-foot 2-inch deck, which is ahead of the established building line. The addition is approximately 7 feet longer than what is existing and will be 2 stories. The proposed deck is new. The applicant is also proposing to reconstruct the existing attached garage by adding approximately 4 feet on the north single stall towards the road, extending 32 feet 8 inches in width. This would add 14 feet 8 inches from the existing residential dwelling. This would put the attached garage addition 13 feet from the subsurface soil treatment area. However, per the plans that there is a proposed 5-foot 4-inch by 14-foot 8-inch roof overhang covered porch that would place the structure less than 8 feet from the subsurface soil treatment area. The property is located in the shoreland overlay district of Big Upper Spunk Lake and is not located in floodplain. Upper Spunk is not on the list of impaired lakes impaired for nutrients. The subsurface sewage treatment system on the property is compliant per compliance inspection P-015-238, completed on February 24th, 2020, and is sized for 3 bedrooms. The current impervious lot coverage is approximately 23.4% based on the certificate of survey, with the proposed lot coverage to be approximately 24.1%. The alternative would be to meet the required building line setback and meet the structural setback of 20 feet from the subsurface soil treatment area. The residential dwelling with deck and attached garage to the south was constructed in 2003, meeting the established building line for lake setback requirements. Avon Township, the Minnesota Department of Natural Resources, the Upper Spunk Lake Association, and property owners within 500 feet have been notified of this request. We have received no correspondence on this request except from the applicant. I did print some of the pictures. I don't know if I was able to email them to all the other applicants. I don't know if you saw your email today.
I saw the pictures.
And then staff would ask how many board members did not make it out to the site. Thank you.
All right, thank you for that. And now applicant, if you'd like to share with us your comments.
Okay, thank you for hearing our request tonight. Basically, it all started with we'll start with the front and the garage. Well, right now the current garage is basically a stall and a half, so I end up parking outside. Also, the third stall garage is not big enough to get anything much more than a lawnmower in. It's got roughly a 6-foot by 6-foot overhead bifold door. The interior of a house currently, our dining room is up a little, 2 sets of steps to get into. We'd like to, with a lakeside addition, be able to eliminate those steps and have a 1-story living room area, dining room, and expand our kitchen.
Okay.
The 2-story addition section on the back, I'm basically looking for the 5 by 8 foot addition that's bigger than the previous unapproved addition on the back there. Basically, I'm looking at line of sight, probably roughly 3 feet ahead of line of sight from corner to corner, which should be in the pictures that I had sent Dave earlier today.
We do have hard copies of the pictures.
Hard copies of the pictures that also were sent to Dave earlier. We did our best to try to stay inside the impervious surfaces that we currently do have.
Okay, all right, thank you. And a reminder to board members to please use that mute button, that *5, and unmuting *7, as we can hear movement, which is kind of distracting on the recording. Thank you. All right, if board members have comments they'd like to share or questions for the staff or the applicant?
Madam Chair, this is Jill DeLong. I just want to state for the record that I did speak with the applicant, and he did give me a basic tour of the yard and where the addition was expected to go.
All right, thank you.
Madam Chair, Dennis Gregory. I was not able to hear the applicant's testimony very well, and so they may have addressed this, but the information that was attached to the packet showed a impervious lot coverage of 27.86%. The staff report indicates 24.1%. I assume that the red markings indicate areas that are removed from the original plan. Is that correct?
That should be correct. I had Corona O'Malley come out, and they did do that official final survey that was official measurements over like 24.1%.
Okay, thank you.
Then, Madam Chair, Dennis Gregory again, a question for staff. There is a garage with living quarters that is adjacent on the adjacent lot. Since it has living quarters in it, does that not influence the building line?
Madam Chair, members of the board, no, we would go to the principal structure, not the accessory structure with living quarters.
And then one last follow-up question. Do we know how many feet ahead of the building line the proposed structure is?
Based off the certificate of survey, probably about half of the addition would be ahead of the building line, and approximately a third of the deck since it runs diagonal.
So I'm looking at the diagram. Would that mean then that it would be about 4 or 5 feet? Is that what I'm
So the
guessing?
proposed addition, I have to go to the building plan, so bear with me.
I'm looking at the, oh, it's a little. Is that 8?
So,
8 feet,
yeah,
8
approximately
inches?
4 feet.
Yeah.
Okay, so approximately 4 feet past what the building line would be. All right, additional questions from the board? Is there anyone in the audience that would like to address this application? Is there anyone on the phone lines that would like to address this application? Hearing none, would there be a motion to close the public hearing?
Dennis Gregory, so moved.
A motion from
Madam Chair,
Dennis
Jill DeLong, I second.
and a second from Jill. Is there anyone that is not in favor of closing the public hearing? Hearing none, the public hearing is now closed, and we'll move on with findings of fact. There will be 2 sets of finding of fact. One will be for to construct an addition and deck that is ahead of the building line, and the other finding of fact will be to construct an addition that does not meet the structural setback from the drain field. So I will take first, will be to construct an addition and a deck that is ahead of the established building line. Number 1, the proposed use is allowed in the zoning district in which the subject property is located, yes or no?
Chair, in R1, it is allowable to have a deck added onto your residence.
And we should also, in addition to referring to the deck, we should also refer to the addition. So additions as well as decks would be allowed. Is there anyone that does not agree with Jill's assessment of yes for number 1? Then I will mark number 1 as unanimous yes. Number 2, the variance will be in harmony with the general purposes and intent of the official controls and any related ordinances, yes or no?
Madam Chair, Mike Hain, 9.9.1 does allow additions and decks to be constructed.
Okay, is there anyone that disagrees with Mike's answer of yes for number 2? I will mark number 2 as unanimous yes. Number 3, the variance will be consistent with the comprehensive plan, yes or no?
Chair, yes, it is consistent with comprehensive plan, goal 6, objective 1, provide a diversity of housing prices and styles meeting the needs of residents and agents' lifestyle.
Right, thank you. Is there anyone that disagrees with Jill's answer for yes for number 3? I will mark that as unanimous yes for number 3. Number 4, the property owner proposes to use the property in a reasonable manner, yes or no?
Madam Chair, Tom Blackburn. It certainly seems reasonable to me. His request isn't outlandish or anything like that, and it's in conformity, so.
All right, is there anyone that disagrees with Sean's determination of yes for number 4? Hearing none, I will mark that as a unanimous yes. Number 5, the plight of the landowner is due to the circumstances unique to the property, not created by the landowner.
Dennis Gregory, I don't believe that it is unique to the property. The landowner is choosing to put on an addition that goes ahead of the building line, and so I will say no to that.
All right, is there anyone that disagrees with Dennis's determination of no for number 5? Okay, hearing none, I will mark that as unanimous no for number 5. Number 6, the variance, if granted, maintains the essential character of the locality, yes or no?
Madam Chair, adding on a deck or an addition to a residential building will not significantly change the character of a neighborhood.
Right. Is there anyone that disagrees with yes for number 6 as stated by Jill? Hearing none, I will mark that as unanimous yes. Number 7, the need for the variance involves more than economic considerations, yes or no? I don't believe that economics were really part of this discussion, so I would say yes to number 7. Is there anyone that disagrees with the response of yes for number 7? Then I'll mark that as a unanimous yes. We're now ready for a motion.
Madam Chair, Dennis Gregory, I would make a motion that we deny the variance application to construct an addition and deck that is ahead of the established building line.
All right, we have a motion to deny. Is there a second to that motion?
Mike Kane,
Dave
second
Gamrod.
that.
Okay, Mike?
I'll second.
Mike is going to second, so we have a vote to deny from Dennis and from Mike, and I'll call roll call on the rest. Jill?
Yes.
Dave?
Yes.
Jake?
Yeah.
Sean?
Yes.
And I would agree with the rest of the board members. There's a vote to deny the request. If you have additional questions, you can check with staff by phone during regular business hours. And do we need to do the second one since we denied the first one? I'm asking staff their advice on that.
Madam Chair, it does make a difference, or it would be a separate request because he's proposing to build an addition closer to the drain field than what's allowed. It's on the other side of, it's actually on the road side of the structure, so.
So it doesn't affect the setback?
It
All
doesn't
right.
affect the lake setback, it's.
So he could do one without doing the
That's
other, all
correct.
right. All right, then we will be doing the findings of fact to construct an addition that does not meet the structural setback from existing subsurface soil treatment area, meaning the drain field. All right, number one, the proposed use is allowed in the zoning district in which the subject property is located, yes or no?
Madam Chair,
Dennis
Jill
Gregory.
DeLong.
Dennis?
R1, and the addition would be an allowed structure.
So is there anyone that disagrees with the answer of yes for number one? Number two, or I'll make that a unanimous yes for number one. Number two, the variance will be in harmony with the general purposes and intent of the official controls and any related ordinances, yes or no?
Madam Chair, Mike Kane, 9.9.1, R1 district does allow for additions.
All right, is there anyone that disagrees with the determination of yes for number two? Hearing none, I will mark that as a unanimous yes. Number three, the variance will be consistent with the comprehensive plan, yes or no?
Madam Chair, yes. Goal 6, Objective 1, provide a diversity of housing prices and styles meeting the needs of residents of different lifestyles. Yes, it does meet comprehensive.
All right, thank you. Does anyone disagree with Jill's determination of yes for number three? Hearing none, I'll make that a unanimous yes. Number four, the property owner proposes to use the property in a reasonable manner, yes or no?
Dennis Gregory, I think the use is using the property in a reasonable manner, given the addition that he's proposing.
All right, does anyone disagree with yes as proposed by Dennis for number four? Hearing none, I'll mark that as unanimous yes. Number 5, the plight of the landowner is due to circumstances unique to the property, not created by the landowner, yes or no?
Madam Chair, the current drain field was existing on the property before the landowner purchased it, so it was not created by the landowner.
All right, is there anyone that disagrees with Jill's determination of yes for number 5? Okay, hearing none, mark that as a unanimous yes. Number 6, the variance, if granted, maintains the essential character of the locality, yes or no?
Madam Chair, Ron Blackburn here. Yeah, there's not going to be much change in the locality or the appearance.
Is there anyone that disagrees with Sean's determination of yes for number 6? Hearing none, it will be marked as a unanimous yes. Number 7, the need for the variance involves more than economic considerations, yes or no? I don't believe economics were involved in the discussion at all, so I would say yes to number 7. Does anyone disagree with number 7 as yes? Okay, we are ready for a motion.
Madam Chair, Dennis Gregory, I would make a motion that we approve the variance to construct an addition that does not meet the structural setback from an existing subsurface soil treatment area.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second. Dave Gamrod.
Okay. We have a motion and a second to approve. I'll do a roll call for the remaining members. Jill?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Jake?
Yes.
Sean?
Yes.
And myself is a yes. The motion carries. The variance for the construction of the addition that does not meet the structural setback for the drain field has been approved. Thank you. And we're on to item number 7. Item number 7 is consider a request from Bo Munsell, applicant, Hutchinson, Minnesota, on behalf of Richard and Christine Rugemer, Richmond, Minnesota, from section 10.2.11A1A of the Stearns County Land Use and Zoning Ordinance 439 to replace a manufactured home in an existing licensed manufactured home park that does not meet the required structural setback from East Cedar Island Lake, classified as a recreational development lake. The said ordinance requires new manufactured homes meet the required structural setback from lakes classified as recreational development. The affected property is 11.59 acres of the southeast quarter of the northwest quarter, and that part of the west 171 feet of east of 841 feet of south 512 feet of easterly of the EROW?
Of the east right-of-way.
East right-of-way of Highway Section 25, Track 123 North, Range 31 West, Munson Township. And the property address is 19962 Foster Court, Richmond, Minnesota. And our applicant is present, and if you could state your name and address, please.
Bo Munsell, 1355 Highway 7 West, Hutchinson, Minnesota.
Okay, thank you. And you will have an opportunity to speak once the staff has given us their report. Go ahead, staff.
Madam Chair, members of the board, this property is in an existing manufactured home park that is currently licensed for 10 manufactured home sites and has 2 permanent residential dwellings. This manufactured home park was in existence prior to the adoption of the official control. At this time, there are 9 manufactured homes on the property. There have been several variances and construction sites issued to this property. 2 of the variances granted for additions to the residential dwelling main house. The only construction site permits issued in the manufactured home park were for water-oriented accessory structures, replacement of a manufactured home at the same setback, and an enclosed porch and deck on one of the manufactured homes. The applicant is proposing to replace a 1962 manufactured home that is 10 feet wide and 52 feet in length with several additions with a structural footprint of approximately 1,062 square feet that is located approximately 65 feet from the ordinary high water level of East Cedar Island Lake. Per Minnesota Statutes 394.25 Subdivision 3A, pre-1995 manufactured home park, a county must not enact, amend, or enforce a zoning ordinance that has the effect of altering the existing density, lot size requirements, or manufactured home park setback requirements in any manufactured home park constructed before January 1st, 1995, if the manufactured home park, when constructed, complied with the then existing density, lot size, and setback requirements. While the replacement of the manufactured home is allowed per the above stated statute, the proposed replacement home is 27 feet 8 inches by 54 feet 8 inches, or 1,512 square feet. The proposed manufactured home would be placed at 65 feet from the ordinary high water level of the lake. With the existing sidewalk, the current impervious coverage is approximately 1,279 square feet. The applicant and owner are proposing to remove impervious lot coverage of approximately 233 square feet. The property is located in the shoreland overlay district of East Cedar Island Lake, is not located in floodplain, and East Lake is on the list of lakes impaired for aquatic consumption. The property is located in a commercial zoning district. The subsurface sewage treatment system on the property was installed on September 17, 1992, and is sized for 10 two-bedroom manufactured homes and the residential dwellings. A compliance inspection is required and shall be completed not later than June 15th of 2020. The proposed replacement of the manufactured home is approximately 250 square feet over the existing structure impervious lot coverage. The alternative to the requested variance would be to replace the manufactured home in additions to the existing structural footprint. Munson Township, the Minnesota Department of Natural Resources, the Sauk River Chain of Lakes Association, the Sauk River Watershed District, the City of Richmond, and property owners of within 500 feet have been notified of this request. We have received no correspondence on this request, and then I would ask how many board members did not make it to the site. Thank you.
Okay.
Madam Chair,
Yes?
Dennis Gregory, I spoke with Richard Rugemer at the site.
All right, thank you.
Madam Chair, Jill DeLong, I also spoke with Richard Rugemer. He showed me which site it was.
All right, thank you. Okay, now if the applicant would like to share their comments with us?
Good evening. Thank you for hearing my request on behalf of...
And if you could step forward a little bit closer to the mic.
There,
I just want to
perfect.
make sure everybody can hear you.
All right. Thank you for hearing our request tonight on behalf of Richard Rugemer and the current resident, Scott Keckler. Basically looking to replace a dated manufactured home with a new HUD code manufactured home. I basically placing the house in the same location. We would be no closer than any of the 3 neighboring homes that are on the lake. And then we would be removing the necessary asphalt just to the west, the neighboring west home at the front entrance, which would be greater than the 250 square feet necessary.
All right, thank you. All right, board members, if you have questions for either staff or the applicant,
Madam Chair, Jill DeLong, the question I have for the applicant is, if you're eliminating the parking pad, where are the people who are planning to use the place planning on parking? I didn't, are they just going to park on the road? I didn't see any other place to park.
Yes, well, there's the parking pad that is directly behind the house. That's not going to change where the existing porch is. And then there is a small space that will be left. The majority of the parking pad that we will be replacing or removing will be to the house to the west, so the west side of the neighboring house towards the street.
Okay, thank you. More questions? Okay, is there anyone in the audience that would like to address this application? Is there anyone on the phone lines that would like to address this application? I'm hearing none. I'd be open to closing the public hearing.
Madam Chair, Sean Blackburn, I move to close the public hearing.
Okay, we have a motion to close.
I'll second.
All right, and we have a second. Is there anyone that is not in favor of closing the public hearing? All right, we will take that as a unanimous yes for closing the public hearing. We're ready then to do findings of fact. And this is to replace a manufactured home that does not meet the required structural setback from the lake, which is classified as a recreational development lake. Number one, the proposed use is allowed in the zoning district in which the subject property is located, yes or no?
Dennis Gregory, it's a commercial zoning district, and it's an existing manufactured home park, so it is an allowed use.
Is there anyone that does not agree with yes for number one? I will mark that as unanimous yes. Number two, the variance will be in harmony with the general purposes and intent of the official controls and any related ordinances, yes or no?
Madam Chair, they're replacing a manufactured home with another manufactured home. It seems like the footprint is very close in size, so I believe it is in harmony with the general purpose of the official.
Okay, is there anyone that disagrees with yes for number two? Number two will be a unanimous yes. Number three, the variance will be consistent with the comprehensive plan, yes or no?
Dennis Gregory, under growth and development, goal 3, objective 2 is to identify appropriate areas for non-farm rural residential developments, and that's essentially what this is. And so I think it is consistent with the comprehensive plan.
Right, is there anyone that disagrees with yes for number 3? Hearing none, it'll be a unanimous yes for number 3. Number 4, the property owner proposes to use the property in a reasonable manner, yes or no?
Dennis Gregory, it's a manufactured home park. They're going to put a manufactured home, and as Jill said, it's just replacing one that existed before.
Okay, anyone that disagrees with yes for number 4? Then I will mark it as unanimous yes. Number 5, the plight of the landowner is due to circumstances unique to the property, not created by the landowner. Bonnie Monson?
Madam Chair, it's Mike.
Go ahead, Mike.
Just because it's a manufactured home park and their space is very limited, that the topography of the land and so forth is the reason they're just replacing it on the existing location.
All right, thank you. And does anyone disagree with Mike's assessment of yes for number 5? Then I will mark it as a unanimous yes. Number 6, the variance, if granted, maintains the essential character of the locality. Yes or no?
Madam Chair, Jill DeLong, the essential character of the locality is a manufactured home park, and they are just replacing a manufactured home, so characteristic.
All right, does anyone disagree with Jill's determination of yes for number 6?
This is just,
Okay, then I will mark it as a unanimous yes.
well, it's good you learned it,
All right, we're hearing some background discussions, so please put your line on mute, which is *5, unless you are speaking, and then unmute *7. Thank you. Question number 7. The need for the variance involves more than economic considerations. Yes or no? I don't believe
Dennis Gregory.
Go ahead, Dennis. Go ahead,
I was
Dennis.
going to say, I don't believe that economics were discussed.
All right, does anyone disagree with yes for number 7? Then we'll mark that as unanimous yes. We're ready for a motion.
Dennis Gregory, I would make a motion to approve the variance to replace a manufactured home in an existing licensed manufactured home park that does not meet the required structural setback for East Lake.
All right, do we have a second? Oh, yes.
Jill DeLong, second.
Could we hold for just a moment?
Second. We can take Jill as a second.
Madam Chair, there is a suggested condition on the variance under number 2.
All right, if you could look in your packet, there is a suggested condition. Would the maker of the motion and the second be open to amending their motion to include that recommendation? And if staff could read that recommendation out loud, please.
Madam Chair, members of the board, as a condition of the variance, if granted, the applicant and owner shall remove approximately 250 square feet of existing impervious lot coverage prior to the issuance of the construction site permit for the replacement of the manufactured home.
All right, would you be open to adding that to your motion?
Dennis Gregory, the applicant had already indicated they were going to do that, is the reason I didn't include it. But I would amend my motion to include 233 square feet of removal.
All right, and the person seconding, do you agree?
Jill.
Okay. And so I'll do a call for a motion, so it's Dennis and Jill. All right, Mike?
Yes.
Dave?
Yes.
Jake?
Yes.
Sean?
Yes.
And I will vote yes. So motion carries. The variance has been granted.
Thank you.
And our last item on our agenda for this evening is item number 8, which is to consider a request from Alan and Marilyn Latska, Sauk Centre, Minnesota, from sections 10.2.8A1 of the Stearns County Land Use and Zoning Ordinance 439 to create a fourplex, a quad, on a lot that is approximately 7,400 and 134 square feet in area and approximately 271 feet in lot width that does not meet the minimum lot area and the minimum lot width requirements within the shoreland overlay district of Thanes Lake, an unsewered lake classified as natural environment lake. The said ordinance requires a minimum of 200,000 square feet of lot area and a minimum lot width of at least 500 feet for lots with fourplexes or quads within the shoreland overlay district of unsewered lakes classified as natural environment. The affected property is lot 3, less the north 32 feet thereof, Randy's addition, section 19, track 123 north, range 30 west of Wakefield Township. The property address is 22406 of Fordham Road, Richmond, Minnesota. And the applicants are here on site, and if you could introduce yourselves and state your address.
My name is Marilyn Latska, 12085 Elcott Drive, Sauk Center, Minnesota.
And I'm Alan Latska of 12085 Elcott Drive, Sauk Center, Minnesota.
All right, thank you. And you'll be
Chair?
invited to contact, or to have contact when staff makes their report. Yes, there's a question from the board?
Yes, sorry, they were very, very quiet, so when they do speak, we make sure that they're either closer to the mic, or I think the mic St. used was really good, so that one might be a better one.
All right, thank you. Okay, if staff could give their report.
Madam Chair, members of the board, the applicants currently own Lot 3, less than north 32 feet thereof, Block 1, Randy's Addition, platted in 1978. Lot 3, Block 1, Randy's Addition met the minimum lot size requirements for lots in the Shoreland Overlay District of Lakes Classified Natural Environment, which is a minimum of 80,000 square feet of lot area with a minimum lot width of 200 feet. Excuse me. Unsewered lakes for single-family residential dwellings. The original owner of the property purchased the lot in April of 1999. In August of 1999, this owner applied for a variance to construct a duplex on this lot and from the required feedlot setback from the feedlot on the east side of County Road 171. At the time of the variance application, a lot was approximately 84,167 square feet of lot area, but did not meet the minimum lot size for unsewered lakes for duplex lots within the Shoreland Overlay District of Thien Lake, classified as a natural environment lake, which required 120,000 square feet of lot area. On August 26, 1999, the Stearns County Board of Adjustment denied the variance for the feedlot setback and for the construction of a duplex, as the lot did not meet duplex lot size standards. The previous owner then reapplied for a variance for the feedlot setback to construct a single-family home, which was granted on September 23, 1999. Prior to applying for the construction site permit and subsurface sewage treatment system permit for the new residential dwelling, the previous owner sold the north 32 feet of Lot 3, Block 1 of Randy's Addition to the neighbor to the north. This leaves the current lot at approximately 74,134 square feet of lot area. The applicant applied for the construction site permit and subsurface sewage treatment system permit for a 4-bedroom, single-family residential dwelling, with the permits being issued in March of 2000. In 2018, the property was foreclosed. This property was then sold to the applicants in November of 2019, with the deed being recorded in December of 2019. The applicants are proposing to make the current structure into a 4-plex dwelling unit. The minimum lot size 4-plex quad dwelling unit on lots within the Shoreland Overlay District of Thien Lake, classified as a natural environment lake, is a minimum of 200,000 square feet and a minimum lot width of 500 feet. A subsurface sewage treatment system design has been submitted for the proposed 8 bedrooms that the applicant is requesting a variance for in 4 2-bedroom units. The proposed property is located, or the property is located in the Shoreland Overlay District of Thien Lake, is not located in floodplain, and Thien Lake is not on the list of lakes impaired waters list. Property is located in an R1 zoning district. The subsurface sewage treatment system on the property is compliant per compliance inspection P-010663, completed on May 22nd of 2018, and is sized for 4 bedrooms. The current impervious lot coverage is approximately 8,825 square feet, or 12%. Wakefield Township, the Minnesota Department of Natural Resources, the Sauk River Chain of Lakes Association, the Sauk River Watershed District, the City of Richmond, and property owners within 500 feet have been notified of the request. And Madam Chair, we have received probably at least 10 emails concerning this request.
Were those sent to the board members?
No, these were
Okay.
all emailed to me based on the information that was sent to.
Okay.
Out with the
The packet,
revised
the notice,
property
the notice that we had sent.
notice.
But these weren't sent to the Board of Adjustment members yet, right?
That's correct. I can tell you that all of them are in
Opposition.
opposition to the request based on, one, the lot size is too small, traffic concerns, noise concerns, and just would have a negative effect on their property.
Okay, thank you.
And I would ask if the board members, if any of the board members did not make it to the site. Thank you.
Okay, all right, thank you. And now if the applicants could share with us their comments?
Yeah, this is Marilyn Latska. Just to kind of review a little bit, when the original owners applied to build a 4-bedroom, single-family dwelling permit that was issued in March of 2000 for the 4-bedroom, they actually built an 8-bedroom home with 4 kitchens, 4 bathrooms, and 4 garage spaces. The building has 4 distinct separate units with walls and doors in between each unit. The property was foreclosed in 2018. When we initially looked at the property before the foreclosure, we had to get permission from 4 different people in order to look at the property. We had no idea that the previous owners had lied on that initial permit, that the initial permit was only for a 4-bedroom when they actually had built an 8-bedroom. We have gone through, going through the septic design has already been done to upgrade it, and we plan on updating that to make it compliant. We are not adding any square footage to the building itself. We are not adding any more bedrooms because it already has 8 bedrooms. It is our hope to clean up the property, to rent out the units. We do credit checks, background checks on all of our renters. We have a caretaker who will be living in one of the units. He will be doing maintenance, keeping things neat and clean and orderly. This is our 4th rental property. We felt that the Cold Spring, Richmond area was a growing community and was in need of more rental properties. We invested a lot of money into this, what we thought was a 4-plex. And not being able to use it as a 4-plex would cause us huge financial burden. Otherwise, what would we do with this property? It is set up as a 4-plex, and it's not sellable as a single-family home, as nobody needs 4 kitchens, 4 living rooms. It just is not sellable the way it is right now. I was a registered nurse for some time, and due to work injuries on my neck and back, I had to quit nursing. I have had 7 spine surgeries. We use the income from our rentals to make up for some of my lost income. So we ask that the variance be granted. We are not going to make any changes to the existing outside of the building whatsoever. We thank you for your time and consideration.
Okay. Now we'll open it up to the board to ask questions of staff or of the applicant.
Madam Chair?
Yes, go ahead. Go ahead, Mike.
When I walked up to the building, it looks like there's a door on the right side of one garage and then the left side of the other garage. That's two entrances. Where are the other two entrances? If it's a fourplex.
All right, go ahead.
The other two entrances are in the garage. There's one downstairs and one upstairs.
Interior.
Okay. Thank you.
Interior. Yeah.
Okay.
Dennis Gregory, a question for staff. Would the title to the property or would the property tax statement indicate whether it was a fourplex previously, if it was assessed as a fourplex previously?
Madam Chair, members of the board, we did a little bit of research, so it wasn't taxed as a fourplex,
right,
or a duplex. It was taxed as homestead residential, and then there was a disabled
veteran must be
rider on the tax classification.
I'm looking at the tax statement. Shelley Benson, Environmental Services Director. I'm looking at the tax statement right now, and it says residential homestead for 2019 and has the disabled classification on it at this point. So if they bought it tax forfeit, we don't have any additional information past what it says in the tax statement.
Okay. I have a question for the applicant. Did you buy this directly from the previous owner, or was there like a realtor or a bank involved, or?
There was a realtor.
There was a realtor?
Yes.
Was it published as a fourplex by the realtor?
I really can't remember.
All right.
When I went in to look at the place, it was being used by multiple residents, and it was divided. And I had to, if you look, I mean, in the paperwork we have, you can see the layout of the building. I mean, how does it not look like a fourplex to somebody, taking a look at it? I mean, 4 kitchens, 4 living rooms. I mean, how would you not think that was a fourplex?
And 8 bedrooms.
All right, thank you.
Madam Chair, Mike Kane.
Yes, Mike?
I got a question for staff. This is zoned R1. Does it have to be rezoned, or is the fourplex allowed in the R1 zoning district?
A quad is allowed in the R1 zoning district, however, because it's over it's in the shoreland overlay district of Thames Lake, it falls under the more restrictive lot size requirements for fourplexes, which is why they're applying for a variance.
Dennis Gregory, a question for the applicants. The applicants, I think Marilyn had indicated that they had to contact 4 different members. Given the information in the packet, it seems like it was a family, maybe an extended family living in this house. Were all the people related that you had to contact?
I believe 2 of them were related. The other 2, I'm not sure. There was 2. I think there was 2 brothers living in the upstairs, and then the the downstairs people, I don't know
Weren't sure
who they were.
Okay.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Mike.
for clarification, I did look up the property address that was listed as a single-family residence.
Now, when you say it was listed that way, were you saying by the realtor or?
Yes, Kristen Benson from Century 21 listed the property. It was listed as an 8-bedroom, 4-bath, single-family, 1-story home.
Okay. Well, is it a basement and?
It's a walkout.
Walkout, okay, so that would be, a basement isn't necessarily considered a story, it's.
No, it's like a walkout, would be a ranch style of a walkout.
Right. Okay, additional questions from the board?
Jill DeLong, question for staff. Are there any precedences for a case like this where someone had asked for a variance for a single-bedroom home and lied and ended up building something different and having to have a variance later on?
So, Madam Chair, members of the board, so because the previous owner possibly built something that is in violation, and in violation of the variance that was denied, so it's a violation of the zoning ordinance, and then the property sells, it's still a violation.
Right.
It's,
So the
nothing changes.
So the violation goes along with the property, not
Yes.
necessarily who particularly owns the property at the time.
That's
Correct.
correct.
Jill DeLong again. So could you explain a little bit further, if it's a violation, what does that mean, or what are the implications of having a violation?
Madam Chair, members of the board, or members, so if it was it was a permitted structure for a single-family residential dwelling. If it was being used as a duplex or a fourplex, it wasn't permitted for that. As a matter of fact, it was actually denied that use. Now that the property is sold, that violation doesn't go away. That's still a valid violation of the ordinance because of the fact that the lot doesn't meet the lot size requirement. And it wasn't built as it was permitted as a single-family home.
Madam Chair McCain, I have a follow-up question on that.
Yes, Mike?
If it was just a duplex, would the square footage still need to be the same lot square footage as a fourplex, or would it be reduced because it would only be a duplex?
80,000, isn't it?
I think it's more
More than that?
because it's an Annie Lake.
Oh.
So, Mike, and members of the board, so the variance, when the original owner applied for a variance in 1999, it did meet the minimum lot size requirements at 83,000 square feet for a duplex lot size. So it's not going to meet the minimum lot size for a duplex now because it's less lot area because they sold a portion off to the neighbor to the north.
Okay.
It can't even meet that standard.
Are there any, is there anyone on the phone lines that would, any of the public that would like to address this application?
Dave, should we just put the names of the parties who were opposed? Because I don't think we stated those for the record.
Okay, Madam Chair, members of the board, I'll
And
read the.
before you do that, I'd just like to, for the record, since I asked for any phone people, there is no one left in the audience here to speak to this application. So, Dave, if you could proceed, please.
Okay, Madam Chair, members of the board, we received letters of opposition from the following.
Microphone.
Joseph and Shirley Beckman of 22413 Fordham Road, Richmond, Minnesota. Elaine and Frank Austin of 22435 Fordham Road. From Sheldon and Ruth Lang of 18941 225th Street, Richmond, Minnesota. From Randy and Margaret Lahr of 22438 Fordham Road, Richmond, Minnesota. From Joseph and Christine Hagemeyer, 22537 Fordham Road, Richmond, Minnesota. From Don and Kelly Willenbring, 22421 Fordham Road, Richmond, Minnesota. From Don and Donna Erke, 22519 Fordham Road, Richmond, Minnesota. And from Roger Backus and Connie Backus of 22471 Fordham Road, Richmond, Minnesota.
Okay, thank you for reading that into the record for us.
I'm sorry, Madam Chair, just to clarify, Sean Blackburn here. Those are all people who wrote in against this proposal, correct?
That is correct.
And many of them appear to be neighbors due to their addresses.
Seems accurate.
All right, other comments from board members? All right, could I get a motion to close the public hearing?
Dave Gamrod, so moved.
I'll
Right.
second that.
All right, two of you are speaking at the same time. I'd need a name of someone for the motion.
Dave Gamrod.
All right, Dave, passed the motion, and who is going to second?
Sean.
Sean, all right. So we have a motion to close the public hearing. Is there anyone opposed to closing the public hearing? All right, the public hearing has been closed. We are ready for findings of fact. The variance request is to create a fourplex on a lot that is approximately 7,400 and 134 square feet in area and approximately 271 feet in lot width that does not meet the minimum lot area and the minimum lot width requirement within the shoreland overlay district of Thames Lake, an unsewered lake classified as a natural environment lake. Number one, the proposed use is allowed in the zoning district in which the subject property is located.
Dennis Gregory, R1 does allow for this use. Obviously, we'll get to the size of the lot in later questions.
Okay, is there anyone that disagrees with the determination of yes for number one? All right, question number two. The variance will be in harmony with the general purposes and intent of the official controls and any related ordinances, yes or no?
Dennis Gregory, I believe the intent of the controls is to separate, a fourplex and give it enough land area so that in a residential area, it doesn't stick out. And in this case, there's not enough lot size for a fourplex. So I don't think it's in harmony with the general purposes and intent of the official controls.
All right, is there anyone that disagrees with Dennis's determination of no for number 2? Okay, hearing none, number 2 would be a no, a unanimous no. Number 3, the variance will be consistent with the comprehensive plan, yes or no?
Madam Chair, Sean Blackburn here. I'm going to say that it is not consistent with the land use plan on as far as our agriculture goal, growth and development goal 4 to, I'm sorry, one more. I kind of got lost a little bit here. To discourage incompatible land uses, actually. So that was goal 3, objective 1. And this to me seems to be a completely incompatible land use.
All right, is there anyone that is opposed to the determination of no for number 3?
Madam Chair, I agree with the no for agriculture. Goal 2, maintain suitable boundaries for urban, rural, residential, and agricultural areas. So I agree with the no, but wanted to add land use goal 2, objective 1.
All right, for an additional reason. All right. Is there anyone then that disagrees with the determination of no for number 3? And that will be a unanimous no. Number 4, the property owner proposes to use the property in a reasonable manner.
Madam Chair, Sean Blackburn, I would just refer to the previous answer. Incompatible is not reasonable.
Right. Does anyone disagree with the determination of no for number 4? All right, I'll mark that as unanimous.
Madam Chair?
Yes, Jill?
I would say that, yes, it could be a reasonable manner. The building, the property itself, the building itself does seem to fit the size of a fourplex and the layout of a fourplex, so it would be a reasonable assumption, just looking at the actual property, that it could be used as a fourplex. So I'm going to say, yes, it would be a reasonable manner.
All right.
Roll call.
And then I will do a roll call on that because it's not unanimous. Dennis?
No.
Mike?
Yes.
Dave?
No.
Jake?
Yes.
And I'm going to say yes on that one, that it was a reasonable assumption looking at the looking at the structure. Number 5, the plight. Excuse me. Oh, so we ended up with 3 no's and 4 yeses on number 4. Number 5, the plight of the landowner is due to circumstances unique to the property, not created by the landowner.
Madam Chair, I would have to say yes to that one because it is the property. They did not do this to the property. They bought it out of it.
Okay, and that was Sean?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So, is there anyone that disagrees with the determination of yes for number 5? Then I will mark that as unanimous yes. Number 6, the variance, if granted, maintains the essential character of the locality.
Dennis Gregory, I think Despite its past potential use, the locality is really a residential district of single-family homes, and so I think a fourplex would change the character of the locality.
So you would say no to number 6. Is there anyone that disagrees with the determination of no for number 6?
Madam Chair, I disagree. Considering that this building has been there for 20 years and has been assumedly used as a fourplex or some version of that for the last 20 years, I believe the character of the locality for the last 20 years would not change by using this pseudo fourplex building as a fourplex.
All right, and since we don't have agreement, I will do a roll call. We have a no on Dennis, a yes on Jill. Mike?
Yes.
Dave?
Yes.
Jake?
Yes.
Sean?
No.
And I would be a yes. So we have 4 yeses, 2 noes?
5 yeses.
5 yeses, thank you. And number 7, the need for the variance involves more than economic considerations.
Madam Chair, Sean Blackburn, I would have to say that I'm guessing that the application is motivated purely by economic reasons.
All right, so your determination for number 7 is no. Is there anyone that disagrees with the determination of no for number 7? Hearing none, I would make number 7 a unanimous no. So we are ready for a motion.
Madam Chair, Dennis Gregory, I would make a motion to deny the variance request to create a fourplex on a lot that does not meet the minimum lot size requirements.
Right. We have a motion. Is there a second to that motion?
Jill DeLong,
Madam
second.
Chair.
Okay, go ahead, Jill.
I second the motion.
All right, so we have a no from Dennis and Jill as they made the motion and seconded it. I'll do a roll call. Mike?
Yes.
Dave?
Okay, we're voting no if we say no, right?
No, the motion is to deny.
Or
So
we
if you
agree
vote
with it.
yes, you would deny.
I agree with that. Okay, I agree with.
You agree to deny. All right, Jake?
Right. Yep. That's correct.
Okay, Jake?
Yes.
And Sean?
Yes.
And I will also vote yes. All right, so the request of variance to create a fourplex on a lot that is below the minimum standards was denied. If you have additional questions of what you can do, I would, talk with staff during business hours via the phone, at least for the next few weeks until we know offices are opened again. So, thank you. Are there any other items that the staff would like us to pursue this evening? Okay. And just out of curiosity, I'd like to just do a poll of the board members, just for future meetings that we might need to hold like this. Were there problems or things that you noticed or would like to comment on about this process that we used tonight?
Madam Chair?
Okay, Jill?
Yes, so I think it would be helpful to increase the mic sensitivity for the applicants, or maybe have a mic check at the beginning of the call so that we can test and identify which mics work before we get too far on the call.
Okay, so concerns about the applicant speaking up into the mic enough.
You might need to put 2 mics there. That seemed to work better with Dave.
Okay. All right, other comments?
Madam Chair, Dennis Gregory, first off, great job. Not easy to coordinate and orchestrate with all of us on our phones. But secondly, I would just throw out the idea again that I've thrown out before, and that is to have some way for the board members to virtually raise their hand so that you could call on people, and so we would eliminate kind of the big breaks and or talking over each other.
Dennis, just so you know, we are looking into that. I think we might be on a WebEx for our next meeting or a Zoom meeting. So we will take a look at doing that for the next Board of Adjustment meeting. The next Planning Commission meeting, which will be on Thursday, is still this way. But I believe the county board meeting, which is the 21st, will be a WebEx or a Zoom meeting. So then after that, we will have our meetings in that same format. So they're just working out the bugs to make sure that it can be broadcast through the meetings on demand site on the website.
Okay, other comments?
I gotta figure out where that camera is.
Madam Chair, Sean Blackburn. I just want to say I think that it worked really well the way that you changed the way that we voted to ask for the negatives instead, just to keep all the voices and people talking over each other down. I think that worked really well.
Well, my thought was we would have been here past midnight if we were going to
That's true.
do everyone voting.
Yeah. Great job.
Thank you, guys.
All right, thanks, everybody.
Motion to adjourn?
Do we have a motion to
Thank
adjourn?
you. Staff for making this as successful as it was and for doing this on short term. So thank you very much.
Yep, so is that a motion to adjourn?
Yeah.
All right, and a or we don't need a second. All in favor?
Say, I think
Aye.
Yell it out.
Aye.
it's Sean.
Thanks, everyone.
All right. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you. Here, make it official.
Yeah, you guys, thanks, Dave. You did a nice job. Yep.